Konoha Uchiha, I get stronger by causing trouble. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Going to the Battlefield. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe and said with some concern, "Is your illness okay?" To be honest, as a teacher, he felt bad for Tsunade's condition. He had persuaded Tsunade many times in the past few years. He even indulged Tsunade in drinking and gambling. But this time, the situation was too serious. Tsunade did not understand Sarutobi Hiruzen's good intentions, but said coldly with a hint of resentment, "Since you know I'm sick, you still want me to go to the battlefield? Do you want me to die on the battlefield like Dan and Naoki?" Sarutobi Hiruzen's face froze, and he was speechless after hearing this. It seems that Tsunade also has a grudge against him. Jiraiya saw Sarutobi Hiruzen's embarrassment, looked at Tsunade again, stood up and said, "Old man, why don't you let me go? I just came from there and have dealt with Chiyo, so I'm familiar with her." After that, he looked at the woman in front of him with deep affection, whom he had loved all his life, hoping that this incident would change his image in Tsunade's heart. "Shut up, did I say no?" Before Sarutobi Hiruzen could speak, Tsunade glared at Jiraiya and suddenly punched Jiraiya in the abdomen with her right hand. Don't underestimate Tsunade's light punch. It's no problem to kill a genin with this punch. If it wasn't for the wrong occasion, she wanted to punch Jiraiya out of the Hokage building. Jiraiya covered his abdomen with both hands, grinning for a long time, before he calmed down. He looked at Tsunade in confusion, wanting to say something, but afraid that Tsunade would hit him again. Orochimaru looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and Jiraiya, who were already silent under Tsunade's rebuke, and completely extinguished the idea of replacing Tsunade. Forget it, forget it. Can't afford to provoke, can't afford to provoke. There are plenty of opportunities to find experimental materials, but there is only one life, so it's better not to provoke this woman with a weird temper. Although he is not afraid of Tsunade, he still doesn't want to get entangled with Tsunade for such a small matter. The Hokage's office was quiet for a while. After a long time, Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a deep voice, "Tsunade, so you agree to be the commander of this counterattack on the Wind Country?" Tsunade nodded. After her brother and lover died on the battlefield, she actually had the idea of leaving Konoha in her heart. But in the end, she was forced to stay because of the young Shizune. She should have left the village with Shizune during the Third Ninja World War. But she didn't expect to be tricked by Chiga, facing an unknown person who knew her weakness. Sarutobi Hiruzen has not yet found out who knew Tsunade's weakness. In this case, he couldn't let Tsunade leave the village. He even used the means of providing gambling money to keep Tsunade for a while. This dragged on to the Third Ninja World War. As the granddaughter of the first Hokage, Tsunade didn't think that she had the idea of disliking the village after her brother and lover died. But deep in her heart, she still loves this village. Otherwise Uzumaki Naruto would not have succeeded in his persuasion. Therefore, even if Tsunade is reluctant, she will still participate in this war. "Okay, considering that you can't fight and can only stay in the command post, I will let Tsukumo be your deputy commander and you can let him do some things." Since Tsunade agreed, Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded with satisfaction, but considering Tsunade's actual situation, he still assigned Hatake Tsukumo to Tsunade. If it weren't for what happened to Hatake Tsukumo would actually be suitable to be the commander of this counterattack against the Kingdom of Wind. But after that incident, Hatake Tsukumo joined the Anbu. While his reputation was not well known, it also exposed a small weakness of Hatake Tsukumo. That is, he cared too much about his companions. As the saying goes, a merciful army cannot be commanded. In the war between countries, if this point is known by the enemy and used, the consequences will be much more serious. Tsunade did not refuse, and said directly, "Don't talk so much nonsense, there is no time to lose. It's time to hold a meeting of Jonin, and formulate a battle plan." This is Tsunade. Looking at this vigorous and resolute Tsunade, Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed. Jiraiya and Orochimaru also nodded in agreement. After confirming the commander, Sarutobi Hiruzen brought the 3 ninjas to the hall to summon the Jonin. Sarutobi Hiruzen made a long story short, just announcing that Tsunade would become the commander of the battle against the Wind Country, and just mentioned how many ninjas would be sent. Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas, plus Hatake Tsukumo led 3,000 Konoha ninjas to be Sarutobi Hiruzen's means to deal with the invasion of the Wind Country. After the Konoha high-level Jonin meeting, Chiga's team also received relevant notices. That is, after Commander Tsunade led a large force to recapture the border of the Fire Country, the headquarters that protected the logistics personnel and supplies went to the front line. The shadow of war loomed over everyone's heart. At night, Chiga's home. Kushina helped Chiga pack up the items she needed to carry. Shurikens, kunai, detonating tags, and food pills are all consumables necessary for war, and they are all supplied by Konoha's logistics department. But he also has some items that Konoha village will not provide, such as the special kunai for Flying Thunder God, the rations for crows, etc. When you go to the front line, report to Sister Tsunade first. I have already said hello to Sister Tsunade, and Shizune is also in your team. Sister Tsunade will definitely choose a place for you to stay that is not dangerous. Kushina chatted while packing Chiga's luggage. As she said this, she turned her head and secretly wiped away a tear from the corner of her eye in a direction that Chiga could not see. Going on a mission and participating in a war are completely different concepts. On the battlefield, there are many ninjas and the situation is complicated. No one can say what kind of accidents will happen. Even though she knew that Chiga had the Flying Thunder God technique, Kushina was still worried. For her, who has experienced the extermination of her clan and knows the cruelty of war, she is very reluctant to see Chiga go to the battlefield. But she also knew that as a ninja of Konoha, she couldn't refuse orders. Don't worry, teacher Kushina, you know it's not easy to kill me. Chiga comforted Kushina. The old man's sand aim is really something. He knew Asuma was still in your team, but he still sent you to fight. Kushina complained. Chiga heard it and sighed. The 3rd Hokage is already taking care of us. What do you mean? Kushina looked at Chiga in confusion. Teacher Kushina, think about it. Since the Wind Country has taken the lead in launching a war, will the other countries be far behind? Konoha has occupied the richest land in the ninja world, with abundant resources. Other big countries can't stand it. I think other big countries will soon launch a war. Compared with the Land of Earth and the Land of Lightning, the Wind Country seems much more harmless. Chapter 150 To the Well-Prepared Enemy. Kushina nodded after hearing this. If it really came to the point that Chiga said, the Wind Country would be much weaker after losing the 3rd Kazakage. Of course, it is undeniable that the 3rd Hokage's move was also to set an example for the Konoha ninjas. Are you saying that you were the first to be sent to the front line because of Asuma Sarutobi in your team? Who knows? Chiga shrugged and said indifferently. You have so many little thoughts. Kushina complained, and then returned to the topic, sighing. It's a pity that Kurama and I haven't reconciled yet, otherwise I can go to the battlefield with you. Don't worry, Kushina teacher, at least you already know the real name of the Ninetales. Take your time later. I think Kushina teacher, you and your little cutie living in your body will soon be able to play happily. Chiga said with a smile. Negative emotions from Kurama. Emotion value plus 20. Kyan. Kushina nodded in agreement, but soon frowned and lowered her head and said to herself, Kyan is not wrong. If you put it smaller, it will look really cute. Kyan raised his eyebrows and asked, is it Kurama who said something? Yeah. Kushina explained helplessly. Kurama is very dissatisfied with your choice of words and is cursing. Kyan raised his eyebrows. This little thing is really lively. Negative emotions from Kurama. Emotion value plus 80. Teacher Kushina, is it still scolding me? If you let me in, I will scold it until it becomes autistic. Kyan didn't want to spoil Kurama, and by the way, he harvested the emotion value before going to the battlefield. Just kidding. People who have been in zone, scolding people is really easy. Okay, don't provoke it. I finally made some progress with the Ninetales. If you go in and scold it, it will ignore me for at least a month. Kushina rolled her eyes at Chiga. The two of them had a discussion about the Ninetales, which actually diluted a lot of the sadness caused by the war. The next morning, Chiga, Sarutobi Asuma and the other two had arrived at the gate of Konoha village. Chiga's team, a ninja from the Hyuga clan, walked up to Chiga, holding a piece of information, compared it with the list above, and asked Chiga, "Yes, I'm Uchiha Chiga, and these three are my team members." Chiga nodded and said, "Hello, I'm the leader of this team, Hyuga Hisashi." The young man wearing Konoha ninja clothes said in a serious tone, but he was already too weak to complain in his heart. "Is this team here to protect the logistics personnel and supplies, not to drag them down?" Of course, his complaint was not about Chiga. After all, he had heard of the genius of the Uchiha clan, and he thought their strength would not be bad. The main thing is Chiga's teammates. The third Hokage's biological son, the little girl adopted by Lady Tsunade, and the Uchiha clan's genius boy Uchiha Chiga. These three people together are much more important than the supplies and logistics personnel they protect. Don't worry, we will follow orders, and won't mess around. Although there is nothing to be seen in those white eyes, Chiga also sensed a little bit of Hyuga Hisashi's thoughts. "Okay, you are in the second echelon. Protect the right side of the team." Hearing Chiga say this, Hyuga Hisashi also nodded, and he had figured it out in his heart. Lady Tsunade had already led most of them to set off. With the sweep of the large force, they would not encounter a large number of sand ninjas on the road. And there are 10 Jonin leading their team this time, so there should be no problem. After a simple gathering, the large force rushed to the front line. Because most of the team was logistics troops, plus there were supplies, the speed of advancement was not fast. After walking and stopping for 7 days, they approached the border of the Land of Fire. Hyuga Hayashi looked in the direction of Shimakura country, exchanged glances with another senior ninja from the Inuzuka clan, Inuzuka Susumu, and then announced, "Let's rest here for a night." "Okay, we are already close to the border, and we still need to plan the next route." Inuzuka Susumu nodded and said, "From the map, they have reached the edge of the battlefield. Although they are still in the rear, it is unlikely to encounter a large number of enemies. But there is still a great possibility of small groups of sand ninjas. If these small groups of sand ninjas who have penetrated the battlefield attack their logistics troops without regard for the consequences, it will also cause great losses." The senior ninjas gathered together to discuss the next action plan, while others set up camp. Some ninjas also used their own methods to set traps and cordons around, and Chiga also summoned 100 crows to disperse in the woods. At night, the campfire on the camp went out, and a wisp of white smoke slowly rose in the dark night, and finally dissipated in the quiet night. The ninjas who had been traveling all day had already fallen asleep. Only those ninjas who were responsible for protection were still taking turns to keep watch at night. The cats were in the nearby woods, observing the surroundings with vigilance. In the tent, Chiga, who was originally sleeping soundly, suddenly opened his eyes. He pushed Sarutobi Asuma beside him. After waking up Sarutobi Asuma, he asked him to wake up Yuhi and Shizune, and he went outside. In the quiet camp, several Jonin such as Hyuga Hisashi and Inuzuka Susumu also got up early. When they saw Chiga coming out, they didn't say anything. The Magatama in Chiga's eyes slowly flowed, connecting to his crow. Rear. After a while, Chiga knew the direction from which the enemy came, but this direction turned out to be their rear, that is, the direction of the Land of Fire. This made Chiga a little unbelievable. Hyuga Hisashi, who also felt unbelievable, also looked at the rear in amazement. But he soon came to his senses. At this time, he was not considering why the sand ninja appeared behind them, but how to deal with this group of sand ninjas who suddenly appeared. Hyuga Hisashi made a few gestures to Chiga, indicating that Chiga's team should protect the logistics personnel and supplies in the camp, and they would go out to stop the enemy. Seeing this, Chiga did not refute, and also made a gesture of understanding. Hyuga Hisashi saw that Chiga understood, and other ninjas were also awakened, so they led the team with several Jonin, and went to the place where the enemy sneaked in. Soon, flames lit up in the distance, and then explosions sounded one after another. There are a lot of people. Chiga frowned slightly. Through the sight of the crow, he felt that Hyuga Hisashi and others had fallen into a tough battle. The other party came prepared and targeted their troops. Chapter 153 Support. Several of the remaining Jonin also felt that something was wrong with the situation, so they summoned another group of ninjas to rush to the battlefield. With the support of this group of Konoha ninjas, the battle in the distance suddenly became more intense. Then Chiga frowned. Even with the support, he was still at a disadvantage. Chiga, are we going to reinforce? Sarutobi, Asuma and others had already appeared beside Chiga and asked Chiga when they saw that the number of people in the camp had decreased by half. Chiga looked around because most of their large troops were logistics personnel, that is, medical ninjas, who were not very good at fighting. The teams responsible for protection had basically rushed over, leaving only Chiga, a mediocre team, to protect the logistics personnel. After thinking for a while, Chiga said, "You guard here, I'll go and see." Originally, he thought that having 10 Jonins leading the team was enough, so he obeyed the command and stayed, but he didn't expect that an accident would still happen. Thinking of this, Chiga blew a whistle, and 3 of the crows that were on guard flew back. At Chiga's signal, the 3 crows landed on the shoulders of Sarutobi, Asuma and the other 2. If something unexpected happens here, you transfer chakra into the crows, and I will sense it, and come back with the Flying Thunder God technique. Although Chiga went to support, he was also afraid that the enemy would bypass and cause harm to the ninjas here. So he left a backup on Sarutobi, Asuma and the other 2, and also protected the 3. Chiga, then you be careful. Yuhi Kurenai looked at Chiga and said worriedly. Chiga looked at the worried look of the 3 people, and also smiled dumbly, then looked at Sarutobi, Asuma solemnly, and said in a deep voice, "Take good care of them." Hearing this, Sarutobi, Asuma glanced at Shizune and Yuhi Kurenai, then nodded vigorously at Chiga, and promised, "Don't worry, I will definitely protect Kurenai and Shizune." Chiga didn't say anything, just looked directly at Sarutobi, Asuma. In response to Chiga's gaze, Asuma Sarutobi asked in confusion, "Oh, did I say something wrong?" Chiga did not reply, but just glanced back and forth at Asuma, Sarutobi, Kurenai, Yuhi and Shizune. "Point, I see, you are talking about crows." Gap. Hearing this, the crows that rested on the shoulders of Asuma, Sarutobi and the other 2 cried out in triumph. Asuma, Sarutobi, Kurenai, Yuhi and Shizune were all upset. "The 3 of us combined are not as important as you crows." Negative emotions from Kurenai, Yuhi, emotion value plus 80. Negative emotions from Shizune, emotion value plus 10. Negative emotions from Asuma, Sarutobi, emotion value plus 10. "I asked you to treat Micro well. When you 3-stroked the crow, you always used too much force, and the crow's feathers were about to fall off. Micro has complained to me several times." Chiga had to say. "Go to hell." Asuma, Sarutobi and the other 2 rolled their eyes and gave Chiga a slap on the back of their heads. Chiga killed the sentimental scene in one go, and the 3 of them didn't want to say anything more to Chiga. Although they said so, the tension of Sarutobi, Asuma and the other 2 was relieved a lot. Chiga saw this, and his figure flashed, and he appeared again near the battlefield. Before he could observe the situation on the battlefield, he saw a Konoha ninja was about to die tragically under the sword of the Sand Ninja. Flying Thunder God slash. Chiga immediately threw out a special kunai. When the special kunai appeared on the back of the Sand Ninja, he used the Flying Thunder God technique to appear, and then slashed the back of the Sand Ninja with a knife. After saving the Konoha ninja, Chiga asked, "How is the battle going?" "It's very bad. We are all poisoned." This group of Sand Ninja came prepared, and the antidote we brought is completely useless. The Konoha ninja spit out a mouthful of blood, and the chakra in his body was difficult to mobilize. The number of people on both sides seemed to be about the same, but the Konoha ninja was poisoned, and he couldn't even use 30% of his strength. No wonder they were at a disadvantage after such a short time. Chiga held his breath when he heard this, and then he looked around, and then he found that there was a very thin mist around him, which could not be found without careful observation. It seems that the Konoha ninjas were also attacked by the poisonous smoke of the Sand Ninjas. As soon as they came into contact with them, when they wanted to disperse it, it was too late. The Sand Ninjas are the ninja village that likes to use poison the most. Their poisons are varied, and can be called the best in the ninja world. It is only because Konoha has Tsunade. Otherwise, they really can't take advantage of the Sand Ninjas. Chiga circulated the chakra in his body, and found that it could still flow normally. Obviously, he was not poisoned. While he breathed a sigh of relief, he also took the rescued ninja away from the range of the poisonous smoke. Then, Chiga's two Magatama in his eyes, scanned the whole scene. After observing the positions of all the Konoha ninjas, he took out all the special kunai and threw them out. Swish. Under Kaien's flying thunder god technique, all Konoha's ninjas left the battlefield. Hyuga Hisashi and others didn't understand at first, but when they saw all Konoha ninjas being pulled back by Kaien, he asked Kaien, "Is the camp okay?" Kaien nodded and said, "It's okay. Let the logistics personnel go first with the supplies. We will stop the other side here." Hyuga Hisashi looked at the sand ninja who was about to pounce and gritted his teeth. Kaien raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Is he ready to sacrifice? Don't worry, leave it to me next. Kaien shook his head and said, the other side has a large number of people, and we can't show our strength anymore. You are useless here. Hyuga Hisashi was immediately furious. When they first met, he thought that this Uchiha boy was quite sensible, knew to listen to orders, and didn't have the arrogance of the Uchiha clan. But now it seems that this boy is so arrogant. They are led by 10 senior ninjas, and a total of 10 teams have suffered losses at the hands of the other side. You are useless alone. No matter how many people there are, they are still less than 1/10 of the Kusanagi ninja. It's a small matter. Chiga was too lazy to argue with Hyuga Hisashi and the others. As soon as he made a seal with his hands, a shadow clone appeared beside him. Without Chiga's command, the shadow clone began to make a seal. Fire style, great fire extinguishment. Chiga shouted loudly while making a seal with his hands and suddenly spit out a ball of fire from his mouth. The flames like the vast ocean gathered together, forming a large sea of fire between the sand ninja and the Konoha ninja. The scorching flames not only burned the trees to ashes. At the same time, the shadow clone also finished making a seal and shouted, wind style, suppress harm. The shadow clone began to spit out balls of wind formed by high pressure from his mouth. When these wind balls passed over the sea of fire, they were already on fire. The vortex of firestorm exploded immediately when it touched the sand ninja. Chapter 154 Arrival at the headquarters. The flame wind balls formed by the combination of wind balls and flames were like artillery shells. They pierced through the darkness with dazzling flames and whistled out. The flame wind balls exploded among the sand ninjas, setting off waves of scorching and huge air waves, throwing the surrounding soil and gravel high up. Boom boom boom. Immediately afterwards, explosions came one after another, and the entire battlefield seemed to be on fire. The flames illuminated the sky, turning the night into day. Although some of the sand ninjas who dodged were not directly hit by the wind balls, the flames scattered by the wind balls attached to their bodies. The extremely high temperature burned the sand ninjas into charred corpses as soon as they came into contact with them. The battlefield was full of explosions and screams of sand ninjas. 2B level ninjutsu, plus Kaien's mastery of fire escape and wind escape, combined with a large amount of chakra, had an extremely outstanding effect. The sand ninjas only lasted for a minute before being wiped out. More than 30 sand ninjas died tragically at Kaien's hands. The battlefield suddenly became quiet. The night breeze blew by, carrying the aroma of meat, which made Hisashi, Inuzuka Susumu and others tremble with fear. So amazing. Is this the genius of the Uchiha clan? I know he can use the flying thunder god technique, but I didn't expect him to be so strong in ninjutsu. Are you okay? Hisashi asked. Although Chiga only released a wind escape technique and a fire escape technique, the amount of chakra consumed to create such an effect is incalculable. He estimated that the two ninjutsu combined to achieve this effect would at least consume all the chakra in his body. I'm fine. Chiga turned his head and said, it's just that we hit too hard and left no one alive. We have no way of knowing why they appeared from the rear. This problem is not our responsibility. As long as we report it to Lady Tsunade, there will naturally be ninjas from the Ando to follow up. Hisashi said. They thought they would all sacrifice themselves to buy time for the logistics troops. Now they have annihilated the other side, which is a blessing and a great achievement. Hinata Hisashi stood up shakily and then said, let's go back. Fortunately, most of our team this time are medical ninjas, and they should be able to detoxify us. Chiga heard this and didn't say much, just helped Hinata Hisashi up and walked towards the camp. Back to the camp, seeing that the people who came back were all their own ninjas, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After all, most of them were medical ninjas, and they were not strong in fighting. If the sand ninja rushed over, it would be like a wolf entering a flock of sheep. Medical team, come and analyze the poison. Because the sand ninja used a variety of different toxins, Uchiha and many medical ninjas worked for most of the night to analyze the toxins of all the poison ninjas. After that, it only took a little time to prepare the antidote. The difficulty of detoxification lies in the process of analyzing the toxins. As long as one link is wrong, the prepared antidote will be useless. After receiving treatment, these poisoned ninjas soon stood up again in full vigor, and they felt that they could have another shot. But looking at Uchiha, who looked like nothing happened, he felt that his 10 shots were not as powerful as the opponent's 1 shot, and he immediately felt that it was meaningless. When all matters were dealt with, everyone rested again, but the number of ninjas responsible for night watch had doubled, and the scope was also doubled. When the first ray of sunlight shone on the camp in the morning, the call for assembly sounded. Everyone got up, packed up and continued to set off. Due to the night attack last night, the large army remained highly vigilant during the march, so the speed was a few points slower than before. Secret code. 50 kilometers away from the headquarters, several ninjas in black robes blocked the way of the large army. This is already within the alert range of the Konoha headquarters. From here on, such a ninja will appear every 10 kilometers. Seeing this, Hisashi did not directly reply to the ninja wearing the Konoha forehead protector, but ordered the troops to be on alert. Although he also knew that the other party could not be a sand ninja, he had to be careful to survive. After doing all this, he made a few gestures to the man, and the other party also made a few different gestures. After seeing Hisashi's gestures, the two checked the code, and when the code was correct, Hisashi took out a scroll from his arms and handed it to the other party. After the leading ninja on the opposite side opened it and read it carefully, he nodded to his subordinates, handed the scroll back to Hisashi, and sent the troops over. In this way, Uchiha and others passed through layers of checkpoints and slowly came to the headquarters. As for why the sand ninja appeared in the rear of Konoha, this matter still needs to be reported to Tsunade. Hisashi and his group of senior ninjas still need to hand over the supplies, and Uchiha was originally going to find Tsunade. So they handed the report on the attack on the logistics troops to Uchiha. Since Uchiha saved them, they have already recognized Uchiha's status. If they were not too young, they would have wanted to call Uchiha adult. Along the way, Uchiha's team encountered many hidden eyes. However, after confirming the identities of Uchiha and his team, they quickly shifted their attention. When they arrived at the command center, before Uchiha could speak, a Tsunade inside said, "Come in." Uchiha walked in and saw that Tsunade was sitting in the center, holding a battle map in her hand, and a young man was standing next to her. Tsunade-sama. After Uchiha's team entered, they all shouted. Hearing this, Tsunade raised her head and glanced at Shizune, then looked at Uchiha. "Kyan, you are here with the logistics troops, right? Did you encounter any emergencies on the way?" Upon hearing this, Kyan said bluntly, "Tsunade-sama, 3 days ago, our logistics troops were attacked by the Sand Ninja. The enemy had a total of 15 complete teams with new poisons. At present, the enemy has been annihilated by us. The specific report will be submitted by Captain Hisashi later. 15 Sand Ninja teams, so many." Tsunade frowned slightly, then stood up, looked at the sand table in front, and said to Kyan, "On this sand table, point out the place where you were attacked." Kyan took a few steps forward, looked at the sand table, then pointed to a certain location, and said to Tsunade, "It's here." "Why is it here?" Tsunade looked at it, and said to herself in some surprise. After arriving at the front line, Tsunade did not rush to retake the lost territory, but built fortifications 50 miles away from the Sand Ninja. During this period, 500 ninjas were sent to clean up all the Sand Ninjas remaining in this line. The forward route of the logistics troops was in this. Therefore, she couldn't understand why Uchiha and the others were attacked. Even if there were some who slipped through the net, there shouldn't be so many Sand Ninjas. Chapter 155 Frontline Situation. As the saying goes, big breasts mean no brains. Tsunade thought for a long time, but couldn't figure it out. She couldn't help but say to a young man who had been silent, "Hey, the one with the bun, come and see why there are so many Sand Ninjas here." The young man was wearing a green vest and looked very much like Narushikamaru, one of the 12 young masters in the future. Chiga didn't even need to guess to determine that this person was Shikamaru's father, Narushikaku. Narushikaku helplessly corrected again. Tsunade-sama, my name is Narushikaku, not some unladed girl. Tsunade glared. Stop talking nonsense. Narushikaku. Chiga looked at Narushikaku sympathetically. It's really unfair for you to follow this woman. She doesn't even bother to know her name. It seems that Sarutobi Hiruzen not only equipped Tsunade with the combat power of Hatake Tsukumo, but also pulled in a staff officer. Narushikaku didn't dare to compete with Tsunade anymore. He walked over and observed the place where Chiga pointed. After a moment of silence, he said, Lady Tsunade, I was negligent. Tsunade waved her hand nonchalantly and said, be more careful. I don't have time to listen to your apology. Before the establishment of Konoha village, the territory of the Fire Country was not so large. This location was once the border of the Fire Country. Narushikaku pointed upwards at the place where Chiga had just pointed and continued. After the establishment of Konoha village, with the efforts of us Konoha ninjas, the territory of the Fire Country has been expanded step by step to what it is now, and the stronghold originally established at this location was abolished because it was too far away from the border. Tsunade's eyes condensed when she heard this. What you mean is that when we were clearing out the Sand Ninja, we ignored this place, so the logistics troops accidentally encountered these Sand Ninja hiding in it? Narushikaku shook his head, looked directly at Tsunade, and said in a deep voice, no, I don't agree with this. The Sand Ninja's attack was very purposeful, as if it was specifically targeting the logistics troops this time, but they didn't expect the ninjas who followed and protected them to be so powerful. At this point, Narushikaku couldn't help but look at Chiga. From Chiga's simple description, he already knew that the logistics troops were able to survive entirely because of this young man. I understand. Tsunade also reacted after being reminded by Narushikaku. The attack on the logistics troops was definitely premeditated. The route of the logistics troops was only known to Tsunade's headquarters and Konoha's high-level officials, which means that there was a spy in this headquarters. After thinking about it, Tsunade said, leave this matter to the Ando people. Let the Yamanaka clan cooperate to deal with it. Remember, it must be done in secret. Tsunade-sama, please rest assured. Narushikaku heard this and replied solemnly. Tsunade nodded in satisfaction, and then continued, okay, let's talk about the current battle situation. After this short period of fighting, we have consolidated our defense line, and prevented the Sand Ninja from making any further progress. This first step can be said to have been completed, so we will start the counterattack next. Hearing this, Narushikaku glanced at the Chiga team on the side, discussing this kind of problem, whether this team should be allowed to stay away. But seeing that Tsunade didn't mind at all, he didn't say anything more. Seeing that Tsunade was already on the sand table, preparing to send a large force to the front line, he immediately said, Lady Tsunade, forgive me for being blunt, I don't think it's time to counterattack now. Tell me your reasons. Tsunade looked directly at Narushikaku. Although the bull-headed man in front of him was young, he was indeed unmatched in strategic talent. Narushikaku organized his words and said calmly, there are two reasons. The first one is that the Sand Ninja started the war because of the disappearance of the third Kazekage, but their leaders are very smart and took advantage of the people's emotions to make them believe that the third Kazekage was plotted against by our Konoha village. In this regard, the Sand Ninja needs a target to vent, and morale is unprecedentedly high. The shadow of a village is not only the actual leader of a country, but also the spiritual leader. The War of the Wind Country's invasion of the Fire Country is essentially for the purpose of competing for territory and resources, but the reason given is to avenge the third Kazekage. This approach makes the Wind Country stand on the side of morality. Tsunade frowned after hearing this. It was precisely because of this that when she led the troops to the front line to counterattack the Sand Ninja, she encountered fierce resistance. Although she successfully forced the Sand Ninja back, Konoha's losses were also extremely heavy. After Narushikaku said the first reason, he continued, second, the Land of Earth has reached some agreement with the Land of Wind. it can be said that there is no need to send ninjas to guard the border between the two sides. This has caused the Land of Wind to mobilize a lot of ninjas, which is basically the whole country's strength to fight against us. Hearing this, Tsunade not only frowned, but also rubbed her eyebrows. The situation is actually more serious than what Narashikaku said. According to the latest intelligence from Konoha village, the ninjas of the Land of Earth have gathered a large number of ninjas in the Land of Rain and the Land of Grass. It seems that they are preparing to invade the Land of Fire. Even if she wants to ask Sarutobi Hiruzen for reinforcement, she can't mobilize more ninjas. On the contrary, the Land of Wind can continuously increase support to the front line. Tsunade asked, "Do you have any countermeasures?" Narashikaku said one word very firmly, "Drag." Narashikaku explained, in the Second Ninja War, the Kingdom of Wind was the defeated country. Every year, they need to supply a large amount of resources to our country. In addition, their logistics need to cross the Kingdom of Rivers. The supply line is too long. They do not have the conditions to support long-term warfare. Tsunade nodded in agreement. Narashikaku continued, "Moreover, I believe that the Kingdom of Earth will never be so peaceful with the Kingdom of Wind. The third Tsuchikage of the Kingdom of Earth, Anoki, is a very ambitious guy. He wants to expand the territory of the Kingdom of Earth. If the Kingdom of Wind does not achieve results for a long time, it will show signs of fatigue. In addition, the grievances accumulated between the two countries in World War II are as deep as the sea. Compared with our Konoha, which is a hard bone to chew, he has no reason to give up the fat meat of the Kingdom of Wind." Hearing this explanation, Tsunade could not help but sneer. There are really no secrets between countries, nor are there eternal friends. There are only interests. Then, let's do as you say. As for some of the details, you go and call those senior ninjas over, and we will hold a meeting to discuss it in detail. Yes, Lord Tsunade. Narashikaku bowed respectfully and then walked out of the command center. After Narashikaku left, Tsunade looked at Team Chiga. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156. Going to the front line. You four. Tsunade looked at Chiga and the other three, and suddenly thought of her younger brother. When her younger brother Naoki went to the battlefield, he was probably the same age as them. War should have been kept away from children, but because of that group of high-ranking officials whose hearts were corroded by power, and whose eyes were blinded by desire, they were sent to the battlefield. This has completely deviated from the original intention of her great-grandfather to establish the Konoha Ninja. We have now re-established a defense line on the border of the Land of Fire, and there are dozens of important strongholds along this line. You will be responsible for the transmission of intelligence and supplies for 10 of these strongholds. After thinking for a while, Tsunade gave Chiga's team a very easy and relatively safe task. Originally, she wanted to pull Shizune out of Chiga's team and put her in the medical department. But doing so would undoubtedly disrupt the tacit understanding of Chiga's team. And Shizune is doing well under Chiga. Chiga, this little guy, is worthy of his title of Uchiha Genius. I understand, Lady Tsunade. Chiga also readily accepted Tsunade's arrangement. Okay, get out. Tsunade waved her hand and impatiently drove Chiga and others out. Following the delay plan decided by Tsunade and Narashikaku, after the Konoha ninja drove the Sand Ninja out of the border of the Land of Fire, they switched from an offensive to a defensive posture. For a while, the fierce battle at the border seemed to have eased a lot. However, after the Sand Ninja noticed Konoha's plan, they immediately adjusted their battle plan. They began to send ninjas to infiltrate and learn about the intelligence of Konoha's frontline strongholds, as if they wanted to destroy the newly established defense line. However, facing Tsunade's strict defense and the sharp knife of Hatake Tsukumo, the Sand Ninja not only failed to destroy Konoha's defense line, but was defeated by the large army led by Hatake Tsukumo. If Chiyo, who was commanding in the rear, had not gone to the battlefield to save the situation, Hatake Tsukumo would have almost scared the Sand Ninja away. As a senior official of the Sand Village, Uchiha became famous in the Second Shinobi World War and was superb at puppet control. It was no problem for Hatake Tsukumo to stop Uchiha. Even Uchiha needed to bring Ibiza with her every time she faced Hatake Tsukumo to tie with Hatake Tsukumo. But Uchiha had another method that Hatake Tsukumo did not have, that is, using poison. She would distribute her newly developed poison to her ninjas. The various poisons made the ninjas of Konoha timid. If Tsunade in the rear had not prepared the antidote in time, Konoha would have suffered heavy losses. Although Uchiha and Tsunade did not meet, one of them prepared the poison and the other prepared the antidote, and they had a lot of fun fighting. But this was more difficult for the ninjas of Konoha, who returned to the command post half dead with poison every 2 or 3 days. The situation suddenly fell into a stalemate. In the Land of Fire, 10 kilometers behind the Konoha defense line, Uchiha's team was hiding behind a tree, hiding with the help of lush branches and leaves. Uchiha imitated a few bird calls in his mouth, and then waited quietly. Soon, a few bird calls were heard from a large tree on the opposite side. This was considered the signal for the Konoha ninja to meet each other. After a few bird calls of different lengths, a team of Konoha ninjas showed up. Uchiha also appeared with Sarutobi Asuma and others, and then handed the scroll with sealed supplies from his arms to the other party, and exchanged the latest information with the other party's leading ninja. The two sides did not talk much, and soon left each other, and the Hisashi team rushed to the next base. The area that Uchiha's team was responsible for was not the main battlefield, so Konoha's base was somewhat scattered and thin, resulting in a large range of their activities, and therefore the probability of encountering infiltrating sand ninjas was greatly increased. Before they arrived at the next base, Uchiha had already observed through the Sharingan that a sand ninja team had appeared in front of them. Over there is a team of sand ninjas, 1 Jonin and 3 Chunins. Uchiha turned to Sarutobi Asuma and the other two and said, "This time, let's increase the difficulty. I will only hold back the Jonin, and the remaining 3 will be handed over to Asuma and Kyunari. Shizune, you should pay attention to Asuma and Kyunari. If the 2 are defeated, provide timely support." Although Uchiha knew that the safety of the team was the most important, he would not ignore the growth of his teammates. Ninjas must eventually go through life and death trials to achieve something. So while passing on information, if they encounter sand ninjas, Uchiha will choose whether to eat them based on their number and strength, so that Sarutobi Asuma, Yuhi Kyunari and Shizune will have some practical experience. Sarutobi Asuma was surprised and said, 3 Chunins, isn't this a bit difficult? If you can't even deal with 3 Chunins now, then you should change teams as soon as possible. I dare not say that my people must catch up with me, but they can't drag me down. Uchiha said coldly. Yes. Sarutobi Asuma, Yuhi Kyunari and Shizune all responded, and then followed Uchiha expressionlessly. Uchiha and the other 4 cooperated well with each other. Under Uchiha's guidance, they came to the side of the sand ninja team at a very fast speed. This sand ninja team was already very careful in stealth, but the observation ability of the Sharingan still discovered them. Uchiha found the right time and rushed out first. At the same time, he stopped the leading sand ninja and kicked him in the chest. After kicking the sand ninja out, he immediately followed and entangled with the sand ninja. Uchiha did not kill the Jonin at the first time, but maintained a situation of equal strength or even weakness, which seemed to be barely holding the opponent back. After all, if Uchiha was too powerful, the sand ninja would see that their captain was solved as soon as they met, and there would be no point in fighting. Uchiha had to try hard to pretend to be the weaker party, and at the same time, he had to pay attention to Sarutobi Asuma and the other 2, so as not to let them encounter life danger. It was really tiring for a moment. I'm going. Kyunari, cooperate with me. Asuma Sarutobi put on the chakra blades with both hands, and the chakra in his body condensed on the chakra blades. He kicked his feet on the ground and rushed towards the sand ninja. Illusion. Nerakuken no Jutsu. When Asuma Sarutobi started to act, Kyunari Yuhi had already formed seals with both hands. She shouted in a low voice and used her most proficient illusion to cooperate with Asuma in an instant. The 2 sand ninjas stood there without moving, as if they were controlled by Kyunari's illusion. Seeing this, Asuma Sarutobi held the chakra blade with a blue glow in his hand and chopped at the chest of one of the sand ninjas. Clang. After a crisp sound, Asuma Sarutobi's chakra blade chopped the sand ninja, but the sand ninja in front of him did not react at all. What? Asuma Sarutobi was stunned and immediately felt that something was wrong, and his figure immediately pulled back. The sand ninja in front of him also began to transform, and his body began to make a cracking sound. Chapter 157 Team Members Battle. The sand ninja suddenly took off his clothes and turned into a puppet. Puppet Jutsu. Asuma Sarutobi saw this and quickly formed seals with his hands, then took a deep breath. Fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu. Instantly, a ball of fire spit out from Asuma Sarutobi's mouth and sprayed it towards the other sand ninja who was controlled by Konoha Uchiha with illusion. Asuma Sarutobi had no desire to attack the puppet. He knew that, even if he solved this puppet, as long as the puppeteer was not dead, he would definitely be able to summon a new puppet. So, he used the fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu on another sand ninja. Boom. After an explosion, the unlucky sand ninja was the first to get his lunchbox. However, Asuma Sarutobi's move also caused the remaining two sand ninjas to be furious. The chest of the humanoid puppet suddenly opened, and then countless senbon spit out from the dark hole. At the same time, another burly sand ninja had not been affected by Konoha's illusion from the beginning. He had come to Konoha's side at this moment, holding a huge machete and slashing at Konoha's head without any thought of mercy. Swish, swish, swish. When Sarutobi Asuma saw the senbon flying over, he also jumped on the branches to avoid it. However, the senbon in the puppet's chest seemed endless, without any intention of stopping. Sarutobi Asuma, who had dodged several times in a row, was hit by a senbon in his shoulder because of a moment of carelessness. Seeing this, Sarutobi Asuma's face changed drastically. Fighting against sand ninja is like this. As long as the opponent's weapon is slightly broken, it basically means that you have been poisoned. Sure enough, in an instant, Sarutobi Asuma felt dizzy and weak all over and fell directly from the tree. Asuma, are you okay? Shizune, who had been behind, saw that Asuma was injured and rushed forward. As Tsunede's assistant in the future, Shizune is not only good at medical ninjutsu, but also proficient in poison. She saw at a glance that the poison was unusual, and her hands immediately lit up, wanting to treat Asuma Sarutobi. Under Shizune's emergency treatment, Asuma Sarutobi felt that he had recovered a lot of blood, and then he remembered that Konoha Uchiha was still fighting hard in front, and hurriedly said to Shizune, Shizune, I can hold on for the time being, you go to support Konoha first, she is not good at close combat. Shizune observed Sarutobi Asuma's face, and found that she would not die for a while, so she nodded and replied, I know, I will go to support now. Before she finished her words, she heard a dull sound, and then she was carried away by Konoha Uchiha who flew backwards. The two rolled on the ground for several meters before they stopped. Krene, Shizune, are you okay? Seeing this, Asuma didn't care about the poison on his body, and ran to Konoha Uchiha and Shizune. I'm fine. Shizune, who was only hit, was not seriously injured. She stood up and helped Konoha up. Konoha was in a worse situation. She was covered in wounds. While Shizune was treating Asuma, she was the only one who stood in front and was almost killed by the sand ninja. As a ninja who is proficient in illusion, Konoha's shortcomings are very obvious. She is not good at physical skills and ninjutsu. As long as the enemy gets close to her, she is basically finished. Chiga also wanted to change Konoha's fighting style, but it can only be said that there is a long way to go. At this moment, Asuma has been poisoned. Although Shizune has treated him, it was just a simple treatment before, and the poison was not solved. It is difficult for him to move now. As for Konoha, she has just been abused, and now her chakra is at the bottom. Moreover, when the opponent knows that she is an illusion type ninja, it is not so easy to use illusion to win by surprise. As for Shizune, she is a medical ninja, and fighting is really not her forte. The little devil from Konoha. That's it. Seeing that the battlefield had been controlled, the sand ninja who controlled the puppet also came out from the dark, gathered with the burly sand ninja, and walked towards Sarutobi Asuma and the other two. Although they lost one teammate, they also made two of the other team lose their combat ability. Another one was just a medical ninja, with little combat power. As for the leading little devil, he was not far from death. Judging from the battle situation, their captain was in an advantageous position. Damn, I didn't expect it to be a puppet. I was careless. Sarutobi Asuma said in annoyance, blaming himself for not paying attention and not even being able to distinguish between people and puppets. If I had known earlier, I would have practiced more with Chiga, otherwise I wouldn't have been defeated so quickly. Yuhi Kurenoi said unwillingly. That being said, you should think about how to write this post-war summary. With such a record, Chiga will definitely ask us to write more than 3,000 words. Shizune checked Sarutobi Asuma's wound and began to analyze what poison Sarutobi Asuma had been poisoned by. I'd rather die of poisoning. Upon hearing this, Asuma Sarutobi immediately raised his head and sighed. You three, you are about to die, but you are still talking nonsense? The sand ninja who controlled the puppet was furious upon hearing this. In their opinion, the three people in front of them were already prey. They should enjoy the despair and regret of their prey, and by the way, avenge their teammates. But who would have thought that these three people would have the leisure to summarize the mistakes they made during the battle? Who gave these three little ghosts this confidence? Little ghosts, if you want to write a self-criticism, write it in hell. The burly sand ninja couldn't listen anymore, shouted angrily, and then swung his sword down, determined to cut the three people into pieces. At this time, Yuhi Kurenoi put her hand in her ninja tool bag and input a little chakra. Swish. Sensing from a distance, Chiga immediately used the flying thunder god technique to appear in front of Yuhi Kurenoi. Before the burly sand ninja could react, he saw a pair of scalded eyes, and his whole body froze. The huge machete stopped at the tip of Chiga's nose, 3 millimeters away, and could not go down any further. Hey, what are you doing? Hurry up and kill these three guys. The sand ninja behind him asked in confusion, because he had not seen Chiga coming, because of the burly sand ninja's body blocking him. Get out of the way. At this time, the Jonin who was fighting Chiga also rushed over and immediately shouted at the sand ninja who was controlling the puppet. The sand ninja who was controlling the puppet was startled and immediately followed the captain's words and jumped out. At this moment, he also saw that his teammate actually turned his body and chopped him in the direction he was originally in. If he had not decisively followed his captain's words, this knife would have cut him in half. Chapter 158. That's a pity. Captain, what's going on? How did this kid appear here? The sand ninja who was controlling the puppet asked with lingering fear. Obviously, the kid was entangled with his captain, but he suddenly appeared in front of his teammates, and he was able to control him with illusion in an instant, which was simply tyrannical and scary. He disappeared suddenly, and I don't know what happened. The sand ninja captain said. Although Kyan's method of suddenly disappearing from his sight was strange, it didn't make the sand ninja captain immediately associate it with the flying thunder god technique. Be careful, the opponent is not simple. The sand ninja captain entangled with Kyan for so long, and he didn't even touch the corner of Kyan's clothes. If the other party hadn't touched his clothes, he would have thought that the other party was letting him go. But even so, he felt something was wrong in his heart and even considered whether to retreat. However, he still had a teammate in the hands of the other party, and he couldn't just leave like that. After seeing the sand ninja who was controlling the puppet jump away, Kyan also looked behind him. Seeing that Sarutobi Asuma and the other two had nothing to do for the time being, he stopped paying attention to them. He turned his head and looked directly at the two sand ninjas in front of him. As for the burly sand ninja he controlled, he stood next to Chiga. Seeing Chiga looking over, the sand ninja captain said in a deep voice, "Kid, your strength is good, but your teammates are much worse." Chiga did not deny it, but just looked at the sand ninja and asked, "What do you want to say?" The sand ninja captain said, "If we continue to fight, no one knows what the result will be, but if your teammates are not treated in time, they will die. So, let's make a deal. You release my companions, and then we will part ways. How about that?" Chiga heard this, and looked at the sand ninja with eyes like an idiot. "Do you think I'm stupid? Unlock the control. If you regret it, it will become 1 against 3. Although he is not afraid, he will not make such a stupid deal." The sand ninja on the other side seemed to know what Kyan he was worried about, and then said, "Of course, before releasing the control, you can make my companion lose the ability to fight. so you don't have to worry about us going back on our word. Although he felt that the other party was a little bit wrong, he thought that he was just hiding a trump card and it would not be able to kill the two of them in 1 second. Moreover, the other party had to take care of his teammates, so he was confident that Konoha would agree to this deal. Konoha heard this, chuckled, and then glanced at the burly sand ninja beside him and whispered, "Since you can't let go of your companion, why not go with him?" As he said, in front of the two sand ninjas, the burly sand ninja suddenly picked up the kunai in his hand and wiped it towards his neck. For a moment, the burly sand ninja's blood splattered, and soon he fell to the ground and lost his life completely. You're looking for death." Seeing this, the sand ninja captain shouted angrily, watching his teammates die in front of him. His mind had long been occupied by anger, and he would never think about what was wrong with Konoha. But before he could act, he suddenly saw that the boy in front of him had disappeared. He was shocked, and before he could react, he suddenly felt a chill coming from behind. "You are all going to die here." Chiga's gust of wind pierced through the heart of the sand ninja captain, and there was a special pattern on the back of the sand ninja captain's clothes, which was Chiga's flying thunder god technique mark. Although he pretended to be evenly matched with the sand ninja captain, Chiga had already taken the opportunity to leave the flying thunder god technique mark on the sand ninja captain's body, waiting for a fatal blow. Before losing consciousness, the sand ninja captain had only one thought in his mind. The opponent clearly had such strength. Why did he pretend to be so weak at the beginning? With the death of the sand ninja captain, the sand ninja who controlled the puppet no longer had the desire to fight and turned around and wanted to run. A sand ninja who had lost his will to fight, Chiga was too lazy to talk nonsense, chased after him, and solved the opponent in a few moves. After solving all the sand ninja, Chiga came to Sarutobi Asuma and the other two. He looked at Konoha twice and saw that, although Konoha had many wounds on her body, none of them were fatal, and there was no sign of poisoning. He then turned his attention to Asuma Sarutobi and frowned. Chiga asked Shizune, "How is it? Is Asuma dead?" Shizune replied, "It's not a big problem, I can suppress it, but if I want to completely release it, I need to find a safe place. Give me some time." "That's a pity." Chiga sighed, looking very disappointed. Negative emotions from Asuma Sarutobi. Emotion value plus 90. "Chiga, I can hear it." Upon hearing this, Asuma Sarutobi spat out a mouthful of blood. This was real. The meridians in his body were eroded by the poison, and it was only because of Shizune's treatment that they were forcibly suppressed. Now hearing what Chiga said, he was immediately furious and almost died of anger at Chiga. "Asuma, calm down. If you get excited, the poison will spread to your heart faster, and you will be hopeless." Shizune saw this and quickly used the palm fairy technique to treat Asuma Sarutobi. She turned back and glared at Chiga. Chiga was good in every way, but her mouth was even more poisonous than Shio's. Chiga shrugged and ignored Shizune's glare. With Chiga's help, Asuma Sarutobi barely stood up. Then Chiga and the other four rushed to the nearest base. An hour later, Chiga arrived at the base. The ninjas in the base had already known about the arrival of Chiga's team through secret sentries. The leader was still an old acquaintance, Hyuga Hisashi. When he saw Chiga and the others coming, he immediately asked in confusion, "Why are you here again? Didn't we just pass on the information? We encountered some problems on the way back. Asuma was poisoned and was not suitable for traveling. We could only come to your base to recuperate for a while." Chiga explained. "What? Asuma is poisoned? Medical team, quick. Everyone come out." Hearing this, Hyuga Hisashi looked at Asuma Sarutobi, and seeing Asuma Sarutobi's pale face, he immediately roared towards the base. "Are you kidding? He is not a heartless person like Chiga. The son of the third Hokage was poisoned. If he dies in their base without proper treatment, they will all be punished." At Hyuga Hisashi's call, all the medical ninjas in the base came out and treated Asuma Sarutobi. Instantly, Asuma Sarutobi's face looked much better. It turned out that not everyone is as irritating as Chiga. Chapter 159 Accidents occur frequently. Surrounded by a group of medical ninjas, Sarutobi Asuma was sent to the ward. When only Chiga and Hisashi Hyuga were left, Hisashi Hyuga's face became serious, and he said to Chiga, "Chiga Chunin, I say you too, how can you easily fight with the Sand Ninja? Even if it is an emergency, your first reaction should be to take your teammates and use the Flying Thunder God technique to leave. Who is Asuma? Asuma is the son of the third Hokage. If he is kidnapped by the Sand Ninja, how will you explain it?" Chiga looked at Hisashi Hyuga in astonishment. He didn't expect that such a serious guy would have such a flattering side. It's a pity that you are a member of the Hyuga clan's branch family. If you are a member of the Hyuga clan's main family, you will definitely be very successful under your leadership, and it is just a matter of time before you surpass the Uchiha clan. Ahem. It's not because Asuma is the son of the Hokage, but because your essential mission is to transmit intelligence, and you shouldn't make any extra trouble. You should also know the importance of intelligence. You can't delay it, just because you want to make military achievements. Hisashi seemed to realize that he was a little too flattering, and hurriedly found a reason for himself. Yes, you are right," Chiga perfunctorily said, and then said, "When Asuma's poison is solved, I will immediately take our team to send out the remaining intelligence. We must not let the injuries of teammates affect the task of transmitting intelligence." Upon hearing this, Hisashi said bluntly, "No, Asuma is poisoned. We still need to stay and observe for a while." "Transmitting intelligence is not important?" Chiga asked with a smile. Hisashi. Negative emotions from Hisashi. Emotional value plus 30. The first time you get Hisashi's emotional value, the reward is that the insight of the Sharingan is increased to the same as the Byakugan. Ahem. The health of teammates is still very important. Poisoning is not a trivial matter. We still have to stay and observe. Hisashi glanced at Chiga awkwardly, and then said, "And if there is another emergency, Asuma's injury can't participate in the battle, it's better to rest for a night." Chiga heard it, thought about it carefully, and it was true. Even if Sarutobi Asuma was cured of the poison, the meridians that were previously eroded by the poison would not recover so quickly. If there is really an emergency, it will be a burden. It's better to stay and recuperate before leaving. Moreover, Chiga and his team have been running around in recent days to transmit intelligence. They haven't rested in the room for a long time. They have been camping in the wild. Besides, it's impossible for the Sand Ninja army to raid this stronghold overnight. Okay, then we'll stay and rest for a night and set off tomorrow morning. Hisashi heard it and chatted with Chiga for a few more words before leaving. As the person in charge of a stronghold, he still has a lot of things to deal with. If the injured person was not Sarutobi Asuma, he wouldn't have been so long-winded with Chiga. After enjoying the treatment like an emperor, the poison in Asuma Sarutobi's body was quickly eliminated. However, as Hisashi said, his body is still relatively weak, and he will not be able to fight in the short term. When they arrived at Asuma Sarutobi's ward, Chiga sat at the head of the bed with a big golden sword, looking at Asuma Sarutobi on the bed and Shizune and Konoha standing. His face sank and he said, "I don't need to say more, you should know what to do, right?" Leaving the 3 Chunins to them was Chiga's test for them. Since they failed the test, they had to pay a price. Facing the strong Chiga, the 3 people's faces suddenly shrugged. I don't know how Chiga came up with this. If they don't complete the test, they won't be forced to strengthen their training, but instead they have to write a self-criticism, and they can't repeat it every time. Konoha looked at Asuma Sarutobi and Shizune, who were silent, and gritted her teeth and said, "Chiga, we got it. I'll give you a 3,000 word self-review tomorrow." "You wish." 5,000 words. Negative emotions from Asuma Sarutobi. Emotional value plus 20. Negative emotions from Konoha. Emotional value plus 20. Negative emotions from Shizune. Emotional value plus 20. Seeing the resentful eyes of the 3 people, Chiga nodded with satisfaction. Sure enough, no matter which world people are from, they don't like to write this kind of thing. As the saying goes, a good memory is not as good as a bad pen. I'm doing this to make you remember your failure more deeply. And instead of me strengthening your training, it's better for you to review the mistakes you made in the battle, and then analyze the reasons for the mistakes one by one, and then improve your shortcomings through your own training. Chiga said a lot of things earnestly, without mentioning that he was just teasing the 3 people to gain emotional points. Negative emotions from Asuma Sarutobi. Emotional value plus 50. Negative emotions from Konoha Uchiha. Emotional value plus 50. Negative emotions from Shizune. Emotional value plus 50. After receiving the emotional value again, Chiga stopped talking about this topic and continued, "Okay, we will rest here tonight and come back tomorrow morning." Boom. Before Chiga finished speaking, a huge explosion suddenly sounded outside the base. Enemy attack. Then, the ninjas of Konoha called out loudly, summoning their companions to support. Hey, does this have something to do with me again? Seeing this, Chiga felt a little unsure. He had just agreed to stay for one night, and now he was really attacked by the Sand Ninja. Without thinking too much, Chiga solemnly said to Sarutobi Asuma and the other two, "You just stay here, and don't go anywhere. If you have any problems, contact me through the crows in your ninja tool bag." "Yes." Sarutobi Asuma and the other two responded in unison. Chiga left Sarutobi Asuma's ward, and rushed straight to the place where the explosion occurred. There are a total of 80 Konoha ninjas in this stronghold, which is not a small number. Since the Sand Village dared to send out Sand Ninjas to attack, they must have the power to deal with so many people. The number of Sand Ninjas must be more than 100. A melee of more than 200 ninjas is no longer a small-scale war, and Chiga had to act carefully. When Chiga arrived at the battlefield, the Konoha ninjas in the stronghold were already fighting with the Sand Ninjas. Without hesitation, Chiga also joined the battlefield in an instant. The summoning scroll was thrown into the sky, and dozens of crows flew out. Under Chiga's command, these dozens of crows formed an arrow formation, and rushed towards a team of Sand Ninjas. It's just a group of ordinary crows that affect vision. Seeing this, the leading Sand Ninja sneered, and didn't want to care about it. He just rushed towards Chiga. Chapter 160 Ikang. Seeing the Sand Ninja who didn't know to avoid the crows, Chiga sneered. Flying Thunder God technique, slash, swish, swish, swish. Before the leading Sand Ninja could react, he felt a sudden pain in his heart, and then he heard the screams of his teammates behind him. Before he died, the Sand Ninja turned his head, and saw Chiga pulling the wind out of the heart of his last teammate. Just as Chiga finished dealing with this team of Sand Ninja, Hisashi came to Chiga. "Chiga, why are you here?" Hisashi didn't expect Chiga to answer, but just said hurriedly, "Take Asuma away, leave this place to us." "Leave it to you? It seems that you can't hold on for long." Chiga looked around, and all the Konoha ninjas in the base had been dispatched, but even so, they could only barely stop the Sand Ninja, and the situation of victory was still moving towards the Sand Ninja. "This is an order," Hisashi said in a deep voice. "Sorry, I'm not from your base. You have no right to give me orders," Chiga replied nonchalantly. While the two were talking, a graceful figure suddenly jumped out from the Sand Ninja, waving her hands in the air, and then two scorching fireballs appeared beside her. Following her command, the two fireballs shot towards Chiga and Hisashi respectively. Hisashi couldn't say anything to argue with Chiga, and could only deal with the attack in front of him first. 8 trigrams empty palm. He chopped out 2 palms from a distance, and the high intensity and high density chakra shockwave directly hit the 2 fireballs. The 2 fireballs exploded in the air. Although Hisashi seemed to have easily blocked the opponent's attack, his face became more solemn than ever after the figure jumped out. Seeing Hisashi like this, Chiga also looked over. The Sand Ninja opposite was a woman, dressed quite coolly, with birch and green hair. The female Sand Ninja glanced at Chiga, then set her sights on Hyuga Hisashi, put her hands on her hips and said coldly, "A Jonin of the Hyuga clan, you are the person in charge of this base. Who is she?" Chiga felt that the other party looked familiar, but she couldn't remember who she was for a while, so she could only ask Hyuga Hisashi. "Yakura, a Jonin in the Sand Village, is very powerful. The fireball released before is her bloodline limit burn escape. Don't get hit, otherwise you will die." Hyuga Hisashi made a soft fist gesture and said to Chiga concisely, "Oh, it's her." After Hyuga Hisashi's introduction, Chiga also remembered who the other party was. Yakura is also a very tragic character. Hatake Tsukumo's suicide can be said to be something that Konoha's high-level officials did not expect, but Yakura is not. As a hero of Sand Village, He made great contributions to Sand Village, but he did not expect that the 4th Kazakage Rasa and the Sand Village leaders would jointly decide to use him as a bargaining chip for reconciliation with Kurigakure, which led to Yi Kang being sacrificed and killed by Kurigakure ninjas. Among the 5 major countries in the ninja world, Chiga can only say that there is no worst, only worse. It seems that you already know the opponent's strength, which is not something we can resist. So the ninjas in our base will do our best to buy time for you. You take Asuma and the others and leave here quickly. Hinata Hisashi thought Chiga was surprised because she knew the opponent's strength and then began to urge Chiga to leave. Chiga glanced at the battlefield, then looked at Hyuga Hisashi and said, "Let me hold her back. I have the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and it's not easy for her technique to hit me, so I can delay her for quite a while." Seeing that Hyuga Hisashi was still about to veto, Chiga interrupted, "Don't worry, I have left a mark of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on Asuma. If we really can't defeat him, I can teleport over and take them away. Besides, Senior Hisashi, don't forget, this is our stronghold. The surrounding strongholds must have known that we have been attacked here, and support should be on the way. As long as we delay her for a while, we still have hope of victory." Hyuga Hisashi heard this, thought about it carefully, and found that what Chiga said made sense. After analyzing the pros and cons, he nodded and said, "Okay, but if you really can't defeat her, please leave as soon as possible. With Asuma's identity, you must not be captured alive by the other side." Ever since Chiga stopped 10 Sand Ninja teams alone, Hyuga Hisashi has placed Chiga at the same level, or even higher. Since Chiga was so confident that she could hold on, Hyuga Hisashi chose to believe her. Chiga nodded to show that she understood. Seeing this, Hyuga Hisashi stopped talking and rushed directly into the battlefield of others. Yi Kang saw that the other Hyuga clan's Jonin left first and originally wanted to chase him, but when he saw Chiga suddenly blocking her way, he also showed a look of astonishment on his face. Yi Kang showed a playful smile on his face and said, "It's interesting that you are asked to deal with me. There's no way. Let him stay to deal with you. I'm afraid he will go all of a sudden." Chiga shrugged and said, "You mean, you are stronger than him?" Yi Kang glanced at Chiga for a moment, and then asked uncertainly, "Uchiha Chiga, do you know me?" Chiga was surprised when he heard it. "I heard that a Uchiha boy who knows the Flying Thunder God technique has come to the front line of Konoha. I guess it's you." Yi Kang's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and he sneered, "I didn't expect that I could catch a big fish by attacking this stronghold on a whim. What a pleasant surprise. Big fish? I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it." Kai heard this and shook his hand very modestly, then pointed to Sarutobi Asuma's room in the stronghold and smiled at Yi Kang. "There is a big fish in the stronghold. I guarantee you will be satisfied. Do you want me to lead the way for you?" Humph. Yi Kang heard this and felt that this guy was teasing her, and murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Don't talk about whether there is a big fish in the stronghold. If she walks into the stronghold like this, what if there are more than a dozen burly men hiding in it? What should a weak woman do? Give it away for free. This kid looks honest, but he is actually scheming. He dared to use such a low-level method to deceive her. Is he despising her IQ? Exclamation mark. Unbearable. Negative emotions from Yi Kang. Emotion value plus 30. The first time you get Yi Kang's negative emotions, you will be rewarded with 3000 experience points for each of the fire and wind attributes. Senior Yi Kang, I can never tell lies. There is really a big fish in there, a very big one. It can support you to become the wind shadow. Kayan was unhappy. He was clearly telling the truth, but the other party didn't believe it. People's hearts are really not as they used to be. Little ghost, go to hell. Yi Kang pushed his head with one hand, and an orange-yellow fireball suddenly appeared above her palm. Chapter 161 Disadvantages. When a fireball condensed above Yi Kang's head, she pointed at Kayan with one hand. In an instant, the fireball shot straight at Kayan. Seeing this, Kayan also moved backwards immediately. However, the fireball was controlled by Yi Kang. After seeing Kayan move, she waved her arm. The fireball that was about to fall to the ground immediately continued to shoot towards Kayan. Facing the oncoming fireball, Kayan felt a sense of danger in his heart, knowing that if he was really hit by this fireball, he would die. Water escape, big water bullet technique. He clapped his hands and suddenly spit out a large amount of water. The water rushed out and formed a huge water ball in front of He, just blocking Yi Kang's fireball. At this moment, He had already mastered the 5 poisons and all 5 element. Although the water attribute was not at a high level, he could also perform instant water escape. The fusion of water and fire. He's water ball was soon evaporated by the fireball, and the fireball also disappeared under the consumption of the water ball. Interesting. A hint of surprise flashed across Yi Kang's eyes, but she quickly regained her indifferent look. Her burning style is a combination of wind and fire, and it has more than just fire. Although it is still restrained by water style, with the blessing of the wind attribute, the power of the fireball is much greater, and it is definitely not something that can be solved by an ordinary water ball. But the opponent actually extinguished her fireball with just a small water style. It seems that a lot of chakra is condensed in that ball of water. From this point, Yi Kang has already concluded that he has a large amount of chakra. But she didn't care. Geniuses always have some special features. 1 is easy to dodge, but 4, how are you going to deal with it? Yi Kang waved her hands, and soon condensed 4 more burning fireballs around her. Under her control, the 4 fireballs flew towards He in a pincer attack. After these 4 fireballs flew away, Yi Kang condensed 4 more fireballs. However, these 4 did not attack He together, but surrounded Yi Kang. Seeing this, He could only move at high speed again to avoid these fireballs. Let's see how long you can run. Yi Kang didn't care about this. He just sneered and waved his arm. The speed of the fireball suddenly increased a bit, following behind He. However, one of the crows that He released when she entered the battlefield had quietly come behind her. Swish. He felt that her crows were already in place and immediately used the flying thunder god technique to teleport over. As soon as she appeared behind Yi Kang, He waved the wind and chopped at Yi Kang's neck without hesitation, determined to make Yi Kang's head fall off. I've been waiting for you. Facing He's sudden arrival, Yi Kang seemed to have expected it. The moment He disappeared, the 4 fireballs around her suddenly accelerated. One of the fireballs had already attacked He's chest with a scorching high temperature. Seeing that the tip of his knife had reached Yi Kang's neck, it only took a little more time to separate Yi Kang's head from his body. But the high temperature coming from the chest made He understand that, even if he chopped it down, they would only die together. He, who teleported here through the crow, had no choice but to use the flying thunder god technique to leave Yi Kang's side again. Why has the invincible flying thunder god technique failed? Seeing this, Yi Kang also laughed. The 4 fireballs stopped again under her control, as if they would only move when He approached with the flying thunder god technique. Troublesome woman. He muttered to himself. So far, Yi Kang is the most troublesome enemy he has ever met. God knows, that fireball can be controlled at will like the air bomb in Dragon Ball, and his flying thunder god technique is indeed powerful. The advantage of the flying thunder god technique is that it is strange and fast. But the opponent already knew that he knew the flying thunder god technique, and it was obvious that he had been prepared. The 4 fireballs have never left Yi Kang's side since they appeared. They were just waiting for him to teleport over using the flying thunder god technique. Moreover, the opponent's reaction speed was very fast, and he could control the fireball to rotate as soon as he teleported. It seems that you don't have any other means. Do you want to hold me back? It's true that I can rely on the flying thunder god technique, but I don't want to waste time with you anymore. Yi Kang took out a kunai. Although he has the bloodline limit of scorch release, Yi Kang is also very good at close combat. It should be said that a scorch release can only be most powerful when combined with close combat. Almost in an instant, Yi Kang came in front of He. Seeing this, He's Magatama flickered slightly in his eyes to capture Yi Kang's movement trajectory. However, as a famous Jonin in the Sand village, his movement speed was beyond He's expectations. Even the 2 Magatama Sharingan could not capture Yi Kang's figure. So fast. Clang. He held the wind in his hand and blocked the opponent's kunai attack at the critical moment. However, this was not over yet, and 2 fireballs attacked He from the left and right. Seeing this, Kyan pushed forward with both hands holding the wind and jumped away from Yikang. However, at this moment, Yikang turned into a stalker, following closely behind Kyan, and stabbed Kyan's chest with a kunai. Clang clang clang. Another close combat. Kyan was timid under the coordinated attack of the opponent's kunai and fireball. Obviously, sometimes there is a chance to cause damage to the opponent, but with the existence of the fireball, he can only give up. For a while, Kyan was at a disadvantage. Sometimes he even had to use the Flying Thunder God technique to avoid fatal attacks. And after each teleportation, Yikang was able to find his position quickly and then follow closely. But Yikang did not attack her at the first time, but used the fireball to kill the crow that Kyan teleported to. High intensity close combat consumes not only chakra, but also one's own physical strength. Although Kyan has the blessing of the immortal body, he is still inferior to the adult Yikang. After a while, Kyan he was sweating profusely and was extremely distressed. Because every time she used the Flying Thunder God technique to dodge a fatal attack, it meant that one of her crows would be attacked by the opponent. You should have carved the spells on all your crows, so you can use the Flying Thunder God technique to teleport to them. Now, I have almost killed all your crows. Where else can you teleport to? The breeze blew, curling up Yikang's hair. She stood there confidently, and she had almost killed all the crows around her. As long as she attacked the kid a few more times at close range, she could calculate which crow the kid would appear next to using the Flying Thunder God technique. Chapter 162. Restarting Sage Mode. After fighting for so long, your strength is almost exhausted. Why don't you surrender? We sand ninjas still treat prisoners preferentially. Yikang persuaded Kaihi when he saw his weak appearance. Compared with bringing back a corpse of the Uchiha clan, a living Uchiha is more valuable, and the other party also possesses the Flying Thunder God technique. They sand ninjas not only covet the bloodline of the Uchiha clan, but also covet this space-time ninjutsu. If they can bring this boy back alive, it will definitely be a great achievement. Let me think about it. Kaihi saw Yikang say this, and a hint of excitement flashed in his eyes. Don't be afraid. We sand ninjas won't treat you as an experiment. After all, the blood in your body is very precious. And as far as we know, your parents have long passed away, and you are the only one left in the family. If possible, you can even join the sand ninjas. Think about it. In order to develop the blood in your body, you can even choose a woman you like in the sand ninja village to start a family. Seeing that Kyan was a little tempted, Yikang immediately struck, while the iron was hot, and wanted to persuade Kyan to surrender. As for whether Kyan would be treated like this, if he really surrendered to the sand ninjas, it was hard to say. Forget it. You people in the sand village are exposed to the wind and sun, and you are not as beautiful as the people in the leaf village. You are looking for death. Seeing that Kyan was still in the mood to talk slickly, Yikang was not going to indulge her anymore. She raised her hands high, and 4 fireballs suddenly surrounded her head, and then gathered into a super large fireball. Scorch release, steam kill. Yikang shouted softly, and pressed his hands down suddenly. At the same time, the fireball above Kyan's head also pressed down on Kyan. Boom. An explosion sounded, and the moisture in the surrounding trees and land was instantly evaporated. However, Chiga in the middle had disappeared. Yikang had expected this, and her eyes scanned back and forth among the remaining crows around. No? Did they escape? In her attack, Chiga's crows were only about 4 or 5, and Yikang scanned and found nothing. And in the battle, she did not give Chiga the opportunity to summon crows again. So after not seeing Chiga's figure, she could only guess that Chiga used the mark of the Flying Thunder God technique that she had prepared long ago to run away. A ninja who knows time and space ninjutsu is really hard to kill. Yikang couldn't help but sighed. It would be fine if the opponent ran away at the beginning. Obviously, she had already fought to such a field and then ran away. She also felt that she had missed an important opportunity. After all, he learned the Flying Thunder God technique, and he was also a genius boy of the Uchiha clan. Such a talent, if grown up, would be too threatening. Forget it, let the top leaders have a headache. Yikang said to himself, and then he also entered the battlefield of other ninjas. As Chiga left, Hyuga Hisashi also discovered it at the first time. He had been paying attention to the battlefield on Chiga's side, fearing that Chiga would have an accident, causing Sarutobi Asuma to leave here. Now after seeing Chiga teleport away, he understood that Chiga had been dragged to the limit, and in this short time, there was still no support from the surrounding strongholds. The life and death of their group of ninjas was determined. But no matter what, it was not the style of ninjas to just accept their fate, so Hyuga Hisashi jumped out and blocked Likang. In the stronghold, Chiga's figure appeared in front of Sarutobi Asuma and the other two. "Hey, why are you back? Chiga, are you injured?" Faced with the sudden appearance of Chiga, Sarutobi Asuma and the other two were not surprised, but were surprised that Chiga was injured. At this moment, the three of them suddenly showed solemn expressions on their faces. "Are you going to run away? Even if you join, there is no way to deal with it?" Sarutobi Asuma asked in a serious voice. He knew that his identity was still very important. If the Sand Ninja got it, it would be a great tool to threaten Konoha. But if he just ran away with Chiga, he felt sorry for the ninjas in the base. After all, he had just enjoyed the emperor-like treatment of this group of ninjas. Chiga ignored Asuma Sarutobi's nonsense and just summoned a shadow clone and then ran to the battlefield again. And this shadow clone also sat down directly and began to absorb natural energy. Chiga, who returned to the battlefield, went straight to Yikang. At this moment, Yikang was already fighting with Hisashi. It was all Hisashi who took the initiative to attack, while Hisashi relied on soft fists to defend. "Hisashi-senpai, you retreat first." As soon as he arrived here, Chiga also directly blocked between Hisashi and Yikang. "Didn't you run away?" Yikang was slightly stunned after seeing Chiga. How could this guy have the courage to appear in front of her again? After all, the previous battle was a completely one-sided battle. "Why are you back again? Shouldn't you have left? You are so confused." Hinata Hisashi was also heartbroken after seeing Chiga. He had already made up his mind to entangle Yikang to death, but he didn't expect Chiga to run back again. Chiga ignored Hinata Hisashi's roar, but looked at Yikang expressionlessly and said, 45 crows. You killed a total of 45 crows. Yikang sneered and said, "Why, do you still want to avenge your crows?" Looking at the calm eyes of the young man in front of him, Yikang's heart could not help but become heavy. Since the other party was able to come back, he must have some trump card. Revenge is for sure, but I have to ask Senior Hisashi to pay some compensation for the loss of these 45 crows. Chiga shook his head and said, "Are all of you Uchiha clan members like you who value money over life?" Hinata Hisashi, who was standing aside, almost vomited blood in anger when he heard this. "I'll pay you a big head, and we're all going to die here together. I'll pay you in my next life." If the occasion wasn't inappropriate, Hyuga Hisashi really wanted to pick up Chiga and give him 2 slaps, then go to hell to take revenge. Yikang waved his hands, surrounded 4 fireballs again, and rushed towards Chiga. Although there was another person from the Hyuga clan beside her, she was not afraid, even if there were 2 of them. She had the confidence. Sage mode. However, before she rushed to Chiga, she suddenly heard the boy in front of her shouting, and then she suddenly felt that the boy in front of her had changed greatly. Chiga shouted angrily, and the shadow clone in the base suddenly dissipated. An invisible force appeared in Chiga's body and reacted chemically with the chakra in his body. The strange and powerful chakra fluctuations emanated from Chiga's body, and red eye shadow appeared on his face. It spread from the eye sockets and stretched to both sides of the cheeks. This is, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Yikang's Shock. I've never seen it before, and there's no special mention of it in your information. Is this the reason you came back? Yikang looked at Kanye in surprise. The strange chakra fluctuations made her feel something was wrong. As for the Sage mode, there are not many records in the major countries. After all, so far, we only know that the first generation of Hokage use the Sage mode, and the record of the Sage mode is only slightly mentioned in Konoha village, and there is no clue as to how to practice it. Even the sealed book in Konoha village does not have any record. As for the ninja villages of other major countries, let alone, maybe only a few words are mentioned. Yi Kang must not know the existence of the sage mode, but facing Kan He's strange appearance, as an excellent ninja, of course, he will be in awe of the unknown. Yi Kang held the kunai across his chest, and 4 fireballs were also swelling around him. While the defense was fully pulled up, he was also looking at Kan He vigilantly. She didn't know what changes had happened to Kan He, but she thought that, after leaving the battlefield and returning, he must have the confidence to fight her again. After entering the sage mode, Uchiha was greatly strengthened in all aspects. A large amount of natural power was transmitted from the shadow clone, greatly increasing the activity of the body. Uchiha felt that he should be able to hold down Yi Kang in close combat. Senior Hisashi, leave the next battle to me, I can still fight. Be careful. Hinata Hisashi observed Uchiha's body with a pair of white eyes. The majestic sage chakra made him feel extremely powerful. He understood that Uchiha had undergone a qualitative change, and he could no longer say anything to let Uchiha escape. Moreover, he had already fought with Yi Kang. If Uchiha had not appeared again, he would have died in Yi Kang's hands. As Hinata Hisashi left, Uchiha looked at Yi Kang. His pair of scalded eyes and the eyes in the corners of his eyes had an indescribable weirdness. The second half, start. As soon as Uchiha finished speaking, his figure disappeared from the spot, leaving only a residual image. So fast. Seeing this, Yi Kang's pupils suddenly shrank. He already felt something was wrong, but facing the fast-moving Kan He still said unwillingly, just what I want. In just a moment, Kan He had already arrived in front of Yi Kang. Seeing this, Yi Kang waved her arms, and the fireballs around her flew towards Kan He from 4 angles under her control, blocking Kan He's path very cleverly. The Magatama in Kan He's eyes trembled rapidly, and in an instant he saw the attack route of the fireballs. Then he did not retreat but advanced, and his speed increased a few points, narrowly passing by the 4 fireballs, and then the gust of wind in his hand turned into a cold light, going straight for Yi Kang's throat. Facing this fatal blow, Yi Kang did not panic. After reacting, he used a kunai to block Kan He's attack. Clang! The gust of wind and the kunai intersected, and the crisp sound of metal intersecting was accompanied by sparks. Yi Kang felt a huge force coming from the kunai, and his body could not help but retreat. However, Kan He did not stop there. He pursued the victory and launched continuous attacks. This kid, not only has his speed increased, but his strength has also increased a lot. Yi Kang was shocked. Clang clang clang. The two moved quickly on the battlefield, with swords flashing, and the wind shrill. Yi Kang was originally a famous strong man in the Sand village. He was protected by fireballs, and these 4 fireballs were too aggressive. As long as Kan He touched them, he would lose water all over his body, and become a mummy. On the battlefield, she relied on this hand to shuttle through the enemy crowd, unscrupulous. However, Kan He's overall strength has increased several times because of the blessing of the Sage mode, and in the Sage mode, his Sharingan has also been improved, and he can already observe the movement trajectory of the fireballs and Yi Kang. The two fought evenly for a while. Kan He and Yi Kang moved around on the battlefield, attracting the attention of all the Sand ninjas and Konoha ninjas. The ninjas on both sides slowed down their attack rhythm at the same time, as if waiting for the two to decide the winner. Judging from the current situation, the battle between the two has already determined the outcome of this small-scale group battle. What a wonderful close combat. Lord Yi Kang's close combat is already the limit of a jonin. I didn't expect that the boy on the other side could actually keep up. Who is this boy? Uchiha. Damn, are all the Uchiha clan members so strong? How could a little kid beat Lord Yi Kang like this? The Sand ninjas were shocked to see Uchiha and Yi Kang's close combat. As Yi Kang's subordinates, they knew Yi Kang's strength better, but the boy on the other side could actually fight Lord Yi Kang in close combat. No, it can't be said to be evenly matched. As time went by, their Lord Yi Kang had fallen into a disadvantage. Uchiha's offensive became more and more fierce, and the gust of wind in his hand seemed to turn into a beam of light. In order to face Uchiha's attack, Yi Kang could only passively defend. Impossible? What kind of technique did you use to be so powerful? Yi Kang, who was in a disadvantage, looked at Uchiha in disbelief. However, the only response she got was the gust of wind in Kaion's hand. The knife followed one after another, like a violent storm, and she was like a lonely sapling, allowing Kyan to whip her. Each knife attack was so powerful, and the overwhelming force came with a sharp momentum, bringing her an unparalleled sense of frustration. How is it possible? Lord Yikang is actually at a disadvantage? Are you kidding? This is Lord Yikang. No, go and support Lord Yikang. You wish. Kyan's posture of suppressing Yikang greatly inspired the ninjas of Konoha. For a time, the ninjas of Konoha were full of momentum and rose up to resist. Morale is something that cannot be seen or touched on the battlefield, but it is undeniable that sometimes morale is the key factor in determining a battle. For a time, the ninjas of Konoha actually went from being at a disadvantage to having a slight advantage. This can't go on. Yikang also understood the reasoning. She was currently a banner for the Sand Ninjas. Once she fell, all of them would be eaten by the ninjas of Konoha. Yikang gritted her teeth and suddenly raised her hands. The 4 fireballs that protected her suddenly gathered together. Scorch release, steam kill. At this moment, she gave up her defense and bet that Kyan he would not risk dying with him. The 4 fireballs gathered into a huge fireball and smashed directly to the ground. Seeing this move, Kyan he tapped the ground with his toes and left Yikang's side. Boom. After an explosion, the land around Yikang was blown to pieces. Chapter 164 Wind and Fire Combined Ninjutsu. Yikang raised his head and looked deeply at Kyan he in the distance. Seeing that the other party did not rush up at the first time, he slowly exhaled a breath of foul air and wiped the sweat from his forehead imperceptibly. Little ghost, what kind of skill is this? Why is there such a big change before and after? Looking at Kyan he's appearance, Yikang's eyes showed a deep fear. What a joke, just a little ghost painting on the face. It would actually cause such a drastic change. It's simply outrageous. She never thought that one day she would be beaten into such an embarrassing state by someone in close combat. Facing Yikang's question, Kyan he rolled his eyes. Talking about the trump card with a dying person is called pretending, and talking about the trump card with an enemy who is not sure whether he will die is called floating. Kyan he does not have this bad habit. Why, that's all. Why don't you just surrender? We in Konoha treat prisoners very well. Konoha will not treat you as an experiment. After all, your bloodline limit is very valuable, and you can choose any man in Konoha village, including me. Kyan replied to Yikang's words exactly as they were said. He even lowered his head shyly at the end, looking very shy. The words he said were also very light, but they could be clearly heard by Yikang. Negative emotions from Yikang. Emotion value plus 80. The little brat who hasn't even grown all his hair yet dares to take advantage of me. You. Yikang's chest swelled with anger, and he shouted angrily, with your appearance, the men in Sand Village will dump you. Dump you. Looking at Kyan's handsome little face, Yikang is a real person and he really can't say anything against his conscience. But most of the Sand Ninjas around her are men. If she doesn't fight back, no one will want her in the Sand Ninjas in the future. Since she can't fight back, she can only fight. But Yikang is unwilling to let Yikang play close combat again. Humph, since you don't want to say what technique it is, then I will defeat you and take you back to find the answer from you. Also, I admit that I'm not your opponent in close combat, but don't even think about getting close to me again. At this moment, Yikang has put Chiga on the same level and admitted that he is not as good as Chiga in close combat. Yikang said with his arms spread out, and suddenly dozens of fireballs appeared around her, completely surrounding her figure, refusing to get close to Chiga. So, what do you want to do? Chiga looked at Yikang with a strange expression, not quite understanding her actions. You will know next. Yikang said confidently, then put his hands on his chest, forming a seal. And then a fireball suddenly appeared in front of her. As Yikang's chakra continued to flow in, the fireball began to grow. A terrifying energy storm raged around the fireball. In her opinion, the opponent used this strange technique to greatly improve his physical skills, so it is impossible that other aspects would also be improved so much. She didn't believe it. The opponent actually enhanced the physical skills, so could other aspects be even stronger? Exclamation mark. Will they let ordinary ninjas like them continue to play? Unfortunately, the sage mode is so unreasonable. Seeing this, Kyan raised his eyebrows immediately. You want to fight with me in a large-scale ninjutsu? Why are you afraid? Yi Kang sneered. There were dozens of small fireballs protecting her, and the little ghost couldn't get close. It was a good opportunity to release a large-scale ninjutsu. Moreover, she was not afraid that Kyan would not accept it. When condensing this large-scale ninjutsu, Yi Kang also observed the angle. If Kyan didn't accept it, then push this giant fireball to the place where there were the most Konoha ninjas, causing the death of a large number of Konoha ninjas. Scorch release, steam big ball kill. Yi Kang shouted softly, and the expanding fireball had turned into a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 10 meters. As Yi Kang pushed forward suddenly, the giant fireball attacked Kyan He with overwhelming momentum. Wherever the giant fireball passed, all the trees and the ground turned into ashes, without any moisture. It's Lord Yi Kang's unique skill. Haha, Konoha's ninjas, tremble. Just like that, the Konoha ninjas were wiped out in one breath. This is the ninjutsu that Lord Yi Kang simulated, based on the tailed beast ball, and it is quite powerful. After seeing Yi Kang use this ninjutsu, the sand ninja immediately showed an excited smile on his face. Interesting. Wind and fire attributes. What a coincidence. These two attributes happen to be what I'm best at. Let me see. Is your scorch release powerful, or is my wind and fire combination ninjutsu strong? Kyan He chuckled and casually inserted the gale in his hand into the ground. There was also a flash of excitement in his eyes. Kyan He's hands quickly formed seals, and the speed of his hands was fast enough to kill billions of lives. Senjutsu fire style great fire dragon technique. As the last yin seal was finished, a large amount of Senjutsu chakra gathered in his mouth. Kyan He then spit out a ball of fire, which formed a 30-meter long and 5-meter thick fire dragon in the air. The fire dragon soared in the air, and the huge dragon head was lifelike, opening its huge mouth and spewing out billowing smoke and flames. Kyan He's proficiency in fire style was fully demonstrated. And this was not over yet. Kyan He formed seals again. Senjutsu wind style great breakthrough. With the blessing of a large amount of Senjutsu chakra, wind style great breakthrough formed a 12-level hurricane, which surrounded the fire dragon. In an instant, the fire dragon's body suddenly became more than twice as thick. Roar! The lifelike dragon head let out a deafening roar. A wave of scorching air instantly spread from the fire dragon, and the temperature of the entire battlefield rose sharply, turning the surrounding world into an orange-red color. Is this really a combination ninjutsu that one person can perform? It's too scary. If I were in front of that fire dragon, I would probably only be able to last for a second. The sand ninja and Konoha ninja were stunned by this scene. I thought Yi Kang's scorch release, steam big ball kill was scary enough, but I didn't expect Kyan to be able to perform such a powerful combination ninjutsu alone. The collision of the two ninjutsu, which were both wind and fire combination, did not cause an earth-shattering explosion. As scorch release, steam big ball kill gradually approached, the fire dragon suddenly opened its huge mouth and swallowed scorch release, steam big ball kill in one gulp. Roar. As if it had taken a tonic, the huge fire dragon roared with satisfaction and then pounced on Yi Kang. Steam big ball kill, and the fire dragon met in the air, and the huge dragon head opened its huge mouth and swallowed steam big ball kill in one gulp. Chapter 165 End. How is it possible? Under Yi Kang's incredulous gaze, the burning style steam big ball kill that she released was instantly swallowed up by the opponent's great fire dragon technique. She herself is an expert in using wind and fire attributes. And burning style is a new property change produced by the combination of wind and fire attributes. In terms of power, it is definitely stronger than the combination of fire and wind attributes. But the opponent is so unscientific. Seeing this scene, Yi Kang felt that she had miscalculated. The opponent's technique was really improved in all aspects. The result of the collision between the ultimate moves caught Yi Kang off guard, but the Great Fire Dragon technique had already arrived in front of her. The Great Fire Dragon, blessed by the wind style, suddenly opened its huge mouth with unparalleled momentum and bit towards Yi Kang. At the moment of life and death, Yi Kang also jumped back urgently. Boom. The fire dragon touched the ground and exploded, and it also turned into a piece of fire and invaded in all directions. The shock wave generated by the explosion hit everyone. The flames swept across the area, and all that came into view was a fiery red color, as if the stronghold had already fallen into a sea of fire. When the flames dissipated, the area where Yi Kang was located had been burned beyond recognition. However, Yi Kang was still alive, but at this moment her clothes had been burned beyond recognition, and her delicate face was also covered with black scorched earth. Obviously, at the critical moment, she jumped out of the attack range of the fire dragon and hid underground to avoid being burned to death by the fire dragon. Looking at Yi Kang, who barely stood up, Kanye raised his eyebrows and asked, "Oh, can you still fight?" "Humph, don't underestimate the sand ninja." Yi Kang forced himself to support himself and summoned 2 more fireballs. Although she said so, she knew that she was in great danger today, and the other kid was too outrageous. You should go back to Konoha with me." He also understood that Yi Kang had reached her limit, and the previous Scorch release, Steam Great Ball Kill, had obviously consumed a lot of her chakra. Pulling out the gust of wind stuck in the ground, Kyan rushed towards Yi Kang again. How could Yi Kang, who had only 2 fireballs, be a match for Kyan? After a series of physical skills, Kyan quickly knocked the kunai in Yi Kang's hand away. Then, the chakra flame suddenly ignited on the fingers of Kyan's 5 fingers, and then he found the right opportunity to press on Yi Kang's abdomen. Senjutsu Sealing Technique 5-Element Seal. In an instant, the 2 fireballs disappeared, and Yi Kang was also shocked and angry. "You actually sealed my chakra." You don't have much chakra to begin with. This is just in case. Sand Village John and Yi Kang, please come to Konoha with me. Kyan laughed and hit Yi Kang's head with the handle of the knife. Yi Kang, who had already lost his chakra, couldn't bear it, and his eyes rolled over and he fainted. Originally, Kyan was also planning to kill Yi Kang like this. After all, this woman killed 45 of his crows. Later, I thought about it carefully. This woman's identity is quite special. She is very popular in the Hidden Sand Village and is considered an important figure. Maybe it will help the battle between Konoha and Sand Ninja. And don't think that Kyan can easily win in the confrontation of ninjutsu, but that is because of the blessing of fairy technique. If it is just an ordinary wind and fire combination ninjutsu, there will definitely be no such effect. Therefore, Kyan is also very greedy for Yi Kang's Scorch release. He is also the most proficient in wind and fire attributes, and wants to try whether he can merge the 2 attributes to form a bloodline boundary. And after he obtained the talent of scientific spirit from Orochimaru, he is full of research mentality for everything. Now there is such a good experimental material in front of him. How can Kyan bear to kill it like this? He must be taken back to Wash and strip it for careful research. As for whether this research is serious, it is unknown. At this point, the battle between Kyan and Yi Kang finally came to an end. Lord Yi Kang lost. How is it possible that Lord Yi Kang lost to a Uchiha brat? Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and rescue Lord Yi Kang. The Sand Ninjas still found it hard to believe that Yi Kang lost to Chiga. But the facts were right in front of them, and they had no choice but to believe it. After they realized what was happening, they also rushed towards Chiga. Chiga grabbed Yi Kang and used the Flying Thunder God technique to leave the spot. Everyone, the opponent's Jounin Yi Kang has been captured by our ninjas. Don't let the remaining Sand Ninjas leave. Seeing Chiga's instant escape, Hyuga Hisashi also began to take over the battlefield. The morale of the Sand Ninjas who lost Yi Kang dropped to the lowest point at once, and they could not compete with the ninjas of Konoha at all. After losing dozens of Sand Ninjas and Yi Kang, an important figure, the Sand Ninjas could only flee with their tails between their legs. After the battle, Hyuga Hisashi ordered his ninjas to clean up the battle, and he returned to the base and found Chiga. At this moment, Chiga had already left the sage mode. Seeing Hyuga Hisashi coming, he immediately said, "I plan to leave your base now and rush to the headquarters overnight. Are you in such a hurry?" Upon hearing this, Hyuga Hisashi immediately opened his eyes and glanced at Chiga. Seeing that the chakra in Chiga's body was empty, he immediately said, "It's better to rest here for a night. There is no chakra in your body. What if?" "No, I beg you not to say it." Seeing this, Chiga immediately interrupted Hyuga Hisashi's words. Then he patted Yi Kang, who was tied up like a mummy, and said, "This guy is a big fish. He should be sent to Lady Tsunade." As for whether to kill or keep him, you have to ask Lady Tsunade. Hearing this, Hyuga Hisashi also knew that he could not interfere with the decision made by Chiga, so he could only say helplessly, in that case, I won't keep you. As Chiga was on his way non-stop, in half a day, Chiga brought Sarutobi Asuma and the other two to the command post. After letting Asuma, Sarutobi, Kyoryuhi and Shizune go down to rest, Chiga took Yakura to Tsunade's headquarters. Tsunade-sama, you're back. Tsunade looked at Yakura behind Chiga in confusion and asked, who's behind you? Yakura. Tsunade raised her eyebrows when she heard that. Yakura, the sand ninja scorch release ninja? Yes. Chiga said, and then roughly told what happened before, and did not hide the means by which she defeated Yakura. After all, so many Konoha ninjas saw Chiga using fairy techniques, and it was impossible to hide it. You actually know fairy techniques? Tsunade did not ask much during the battle, but was immediately surprised that Chiga could use fairy techniques. Senior Minato explained to me the practice of fairy techniques in Myaboki Mountain, and I learned it after practicing. Are you kidding me? Chapter 166 Tsunade's Test. Are you kidding me? Tsunade wanted to punch Chiga on the head when she heard this. If Sage Mode could be learned by practicing, then it would have been everywhere in the ninja world. As the granddaughter of the first and second Hokage, Tsunade should know more about Sage Mode. Although the natural energy can be combined with chakra to bring powerful power. But if you are not careful, you will be eroded by natural energy and petrified. Even her second grandfather, Senjuta Biruma, did not study Sage Mode thoroughly. But everyone has their own secrets, and Tsunade will not go into detail about how Chiga learned Sage Mode. Tsunade was silent for a while, and then said, now enter Sage Mode and show me. Here. Chiga heard this, confused, but still said, then Tsunade-sama, you have to wait a little, I need to collect natural energy. Tsunade asked in surprise, oh, can't you enter right away? You think I'm your grandfather? Just go in, when I say so. Chiga blurted out, and felt like a pill halfway through. Negative emotions from Tsunade, emotion value plus 30. Boy, how far do you want to fly? Tsunade clenched her fist, narrowed her eyes and sneered. Seeing this, Kayan was quick-witted and rescued herself. That, Lady Tsunade, I will start collecting natural energy now. You can't be stimulated when I collect natural energy. After saying that, she immediately sat down cross-legged. Seeing this, Tsunade could only suppress her anger and wait for Kayan to finish silently. Sage Mode. After more than 10 minutes, Kayan probably felt that Tsunade's anger had almost subsided, so she reluctantly entered the Sage Mode. Tsunade looked at Kayan's Sage Mode and was slightly stunned. Her face also showed a look of nostalgia for the first generation Hokage, Senju Hashirama. But soon, she restrained herself and looked at Kayan carefully at the moment. Then she stretched out a hand towards Kayan, as if she wanted to touch Kayan's face. This old woman wants to tease me? Exclamation mark. Just when Kayan was considering whether to let Tsunade take advantage, the hand suddenly clenched into a fist and hit him on the forehead. Kayan's eyes condensed, and he stood there without dodging, but just stretched out his hand and covered Tsunade's fist. Bang! As soon as the fist and palm touched, there was a dull sound, and then invisible ripples suddenly spread out, and the tables and chairs in the command center were immediately overturned by the shockwave. Then Kayan stepped back several steps. Seeing this, Tsunade's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and then she stepped hard, clenched her fist again, and rushed out, and instantly came in front of Kayan, and then punched again. Boom boom boom. Kayan was not at all inferior to Tsunade, and also met with a fist. For a while, there was a constant roar in the command center. This was mainly the roar of the two people's hard collision, accompanied by the sound of the earth cracking. Although both of them consciously controlled their own power, they still destroyed all the tables and chairs in the room and the sand table in the middle. When the staff officer Narashikaku outside the house heard the movement in the headquarters, his face changed immediately. When he walked into the house, he saw Chiga and Tsunade fighting. Narashikaku asked, Tsunade-sama, what's going on? Seeing someone coming in, Tsunade stopped attacking Chiga and just replied, nothing, just testing the real strength of this kid. Narashikaku heard this, and almost blurted out a MMP in his heart. Is the headquarters a place where you can do whatever you want? He thought Tsunade was assassinated. But in front of Tsunade, he didn't dare to say it, but helplessly used the Earth Escape ninjutsu to restore the sand table in the center of the headquarters, and muttered, "This is the 5th time. Tsunade has a bad temper. Once the battle fails, she likes to hit something with her fists. It seems that this sand table has been used as a punching bag. Go down and take Yikang with you." Tsunade waved her hand and then asked Narashikaku to take Yikang, who had not yet woken up, down. Then she said to Chiga with satisfaction, "Not bad, although I haven't used my full strength, you can hold on for so long. It seems that the Sage mode has greatly improved you. Lady Tsunade, please remind me before you do it next time, otherwise it's easy to scare people to death." Chiga exited the Sage mode and complained. At that moment, he thought that he had cheated Tsunade of gambling money and was discovered by Tsunade. Tsunade didn't care about Chiga's complaints, but just looked at Chiga with a meaningful look and said, "Chiga, it's really a waste of talent to let you pass on information." Chiga knew that Tsunade was going to add more burdens to him. Chiga, who was a bit lazy, was reluctant to work anymore and pulled Shizune out as a shield. Kayane said helplessly, "Tsunade-sama, do you really want to squeeze me dry? Don't say it so harshly. The more capable you are, the more work you should do. Besides, in order to solve the various poisons of that old woman Chiyo, I have to kill a lot of brain cells every day, and my chest has become thinner due to exhaustion. And you, a little kid, actually want to be lazy?" At this point, Tsunade rolled up her sleeves, clenched her fists, and grinned. "Humph. Who dares to refuse what I arrange? You have to do it today, even if you don't want to." This character, Kayane suddenly felt inexplicably familiar. Isn't this the expression of teacher Kushina when she forced Asuma? Well, he finally understood who Kushina learned this from. Tsunade said so much, Kayane knew that Tsunade had already thought about how to arrange him. A higher ranking official can crush a person, not to mention that the other party threatened with force. Kayane could only sigh and asked, "Then Tsunade-sama, what are you going to do?" Chapter 167. Similar to Hashirama Senju, I plan to form a second spearhead team with you as a core to destroy the base of the Kingdom of Wind in the Kingdom of River. Tsunade said with hatred. The pressure on the front line was too great for her, and she also received the latest intelligence that the Kingdom of Earth had invaded. Originally, according to what she and the staff officer Narashikaku had discussed, they adopted the policy of delay to drag down the Kingdom of Wind. Even dragged until the Kingdom of Earth could not help but attack the Kingdom of Wind. There were many grievances between the two countries in the Second Shinobi World War. According to their estimation, as long as Konoha could delay the Kingdom of Wind for a period of time, the Kingdom of Earth would most likely launch a war against the Kingdom of Wind. But they did not expect that the Kingdom of Earth could actually hold back. It seems that some kind of secret agreement had already been reached between the two countries. Now that the two great powers attacked Konoha together, the pressure came to Konoha. The policy of delay could not be implemented. Unfortunately, the geographical location of the Kingdom of Fire was too easy to be targeted, and it was impossible to go all out to deal with the Kingdom of Wind. Otherwise, the sand village of the Kingdom of Wind would have become a tourist site long ago. This is also the reason why the Kingdom of Wind dared to be so unscrupulous. Chiga understood what Tsunade meant. Simply delaying would not solve the current predicament. She had to take action appropriately and look for the right opportunity. Now that she had such a good helper like Chiga, Tsunade would never treat Chiga as a person who just passed on information. As the frontline commander, Tsunade was unable to participate in the battle. Fortunately, Hatake Tsukumo was dispatched to serve as the deputy commander. Otherwise, Konoha would not be able to stop the high-end combat power. Chiga complained. The spearhead team? It sounds more like a death squad, right? Not really. The first spearhead team is led by Senior Tsukumo. You can't think that I use Senior Tsukumo as cannon fodder, Tsunade said with a smile. Okay, how many people are there? Tsunade pondered for a while and said, we don't have many ninjas on this battlefield. I can only assign you 60 ninjas above the level of Chunin. I want you and Senior Tsukumo to eliminate the strongholds on the front line of Sand Village together. Then we will nibble away at the enemy's territory step by step. At this point, Tsunade also explained helplessly, originally, there was no need to form a so-called second spearhead team, but Senior Tsukumo was blocked by Chiyo and Ibizo every time he took action. With the existence of the two of them, we seem to be very weak in destroying the enemy's strongholds. Kyan nodded in understanding, and then said, I know, but can I make a suggestion? You say. Tsunade replied. Kyan said bluntly, my team has too many people, let's streamline it. He didn't like to form a team with too many people. Streamline? Then how many people do you want? Tsunade frowned when she heard this, with an expression that this kid had failed her kindness. I gritted my teeth and assigned 60 ninjas above the level of Chunin to this kid's command, but this kid actually despised it. Tsunade-sama, my fighting style is different from Uncle Tsukumo's. Chiga looked at Tsunade's expression and explained, you know, in Sage mode, ninjutsu is all open and closed, and the power is magnified several times. With our ninjas participating in the battle, I can't let go. Tsunade was also suddenly enlightened when she heard this. Hatake Tsukumo's fighting style belongs to the kind of technical ninjas. For example, if the opponent has 100 ninjas attacking together, Hatake Tsukumo will have to kneel down, or even die miserably. But if these 100 ninjas are divided into one or several to deal with Hatake Tsukumo, then Hatake Tsukumo can spark and lightning all the way and make these 100 ninjas start their lives. Therefore, a team with Hatake Tsukumo as the core does need a lot of ninjas to isolate the battlefield and give Hatake Tsukumo room to play. As for Chiga Tsunade, it's hard to say. She seems to be very versatile, but her biggest feature seems to be that she likes to use large-scale ninjutsu, and her own chakra is enough to support it. She is really a bit like her great-grandfather. Of course, this does not mean that Chiga is stronger than Hatake Tsukumo. At present, when the two fight, Hatake Tsukumo can hang Chiga up and beat her. Tsunade thought so, and suddenly felt that there was something wrong with what Chiga said, and was immediately surprised. Wait, what do you mean you can't let go? Do you still want to destroy the other party's base by yourself? That's what I mean. Chiga licked his lips and said excitedly, I have a large-scale illusion, which has just been developed to the second movement, and there is no experimental target yet. Tsunade said dissatisfiedly, don't make trouble, this is a war, not a game. There is no time to test new ninjutsu for you. Don't worry, Tsunade-sama, have you forgotten that my first movement has already destroyed the ninjas of Kusano no Michizuru? What? Those idiots of Kusano no Michizuru were destroyed by you? Tsunade heard this, and her face showed an extremely surprised expression. At that time, she was still addicted to gambling and didn't pay much attention to the major events in the ninja world, but she also heard that more than 400 ninjas of Kusano no Michizuru died overnight. As for who killed them, there is no accurate news, but it is known that it was someone in Konoha. Tsunade originally thought that it was a ninja of the level of the 3 ninjas who took action. Perhaps it was Orochimaru. After all, that guy likes to kill people's families and collect materials at the same time. But she didn't expect that it was Chiga who killed him. Don't you know? Didn't Mrs. Senior tell you? She was rescued by me at that time. Compared to Tsunade's astonishment, Chiga was even more astonished. I didn't ask carefully. Tsunade's old face flushed. At that time, she was still addicted to gambling. If it weren't for Kushina's request, she would not be willing to accept Uzumaki Misa. However, after hearing what Chiga said, Tsunade also understood that the number of people was not important to Chiga at all. As long as Chiga's technique could be activated, it would be possible to destroy the base. But, Tsunade frowned and asked, are you sure? The Sand Ninja are not fools. Even if we can't destroy the Sand Ninja in the base, we may be used as a mobile force to disgust the Sand Ninja. And if there are only a few of us, we can rely on my Flying Thunder God technique to escape after being surrounded. Kyan didn't say everything, but just provided Tsunade with another idea. You are quite insidious. Tsunade heard what Kyan was planning. According to Kyan's idea, he wanted to stick it into the Sand Ninja's territory like a needle, but the Sand Ninja couldn't find the needle yet. After thinking for a while, Tsunade said in a deep voice, okay, in this case, I will give you a chance to show off. Chapter 168 Leaving a Mark on Yikang. As she spoke, a Tsunade came to the sand table. Pointing to a sand shinobi stronghold far away from the main battlefield, she said, "There are about 30 sand shinobi in this stronghold, 1 jonin, 10 chunins, and an unknown number of genin, but no more than 20 people. Let's take this stronghold as the target of attack. I want you to see how far you can go." Chiga stepped forward and took a few glances, then said to Tsunade in a deep voice, "Yes, Lady Tsunade. As for the personnel, do you have any recommendations? If not, I'll find a few for you." Since Tsunade had already decided to use Chiga as a core, it was natural for Chiga to select the candidates for this team. "Give me Hayashi-senpai, his Byakugan observation ability is stronger than my Sharingan, which can be useful when infiltrating. Just pick 2 jonin for the rest and form a team." Chiga thought about it and asked Tsunade for a member of the Hyuga clan and let Tsunade arrange the others. Originally, he would have acted alone, but considering that releasing a large-scale senjutsu consumes too much chakra, he still needs someone to protect him after using his ninjutsu. That's why he asked for a few people. Of course, these people can't hold him back, so he asked for the jonin. "Okay. Anything else?" Tsunade nodded when she heard that. She was quite happy to just give 3 jonin. "That's all." Chiga shook her head, then thought for a while, and then said, "If possible, when Tsunade-sama is free, you might as well give some pointers to the 3 people in my team." Tsunade raised her eyebrows and said, "I didn't realize that you would actually take care of your teammates. My biggest problem is that I value feelings. You've been with me for so long, you should be nice to these 3 people." Chiga looked straight into Tsunade's eyes and said with a smile, "Really?" Tsunade saw Chiga's sincere look and felt that Kushina really accepted a good apprentice. With him and Minato, Kushina will not be bullied in the village in the future. After the war, there is one less fetter that prevents her from leaving the village. "By the way, Lady Tsunade, I will do something to Yi Kang later." "No problem, it's the spoils you brought back anyway. You can do whatever you want, as long as you don't kill him." Tsunade waved her hand carelessly. She didn't think about the arrangement for Yi Kang for a while. After all, this accident came too suddenly, and she still needed to plan it well. So after giving instructions, she let Chiga leave. When they came to the place where Yi Kang was imprisoned, as a blood ninja with the scorch release, after being taken away by Narashikaku, he was immediately sent to the temporary laboratory built on the front line. Because of Tsunade's order, the Anbu guarding here saw this and let Chiga go. After telling the Anbu ninja not to let others disturb him, Chiga locked the place and even used a sealing technique to isolate all information. Yi Kang had not yet woken up, so Kanhi also gave her an anesthetic injection to prevent her from waking up in the middle of the process. Then, Kanhi first collected 2 test tubes of Yi Kang's blood with a syringe and then cut a piece of flesh from his calf. The current laboratory is too simple and lacks many key instruments, so we can only wait until we return to Konoha to study. Speaking of which, some high-tech instruments are indispensable for this kind of blood research. And these instruments have another common feature, that is, they are expensive. Having to raise crows and do scientific research, Kanhi felt that his future self would have to run for money again. However, Kanhi had already thought about it. Anyway, he had offended Orochimaru, so it didn't matter if he stole a few more of his instruments. He would write a letter to teacher Kushina and ask her to go to Orochimaru's laboratory in advance to observe, draw up a list, and buy it for free. He took out a healing scroll and was about to restore the gap in Yi Kang's calf, but Kanhi thought about it, and the scalpel made a slight effort to cut directly into the calf muscle, exposing the bone. Then Chiga left a mark of the Flying Thunder God technique. Tsunade's previous remarks seemed to indicate that she was not going to kill Yi Kang, which meant that she was going to use Yi Kang to make a deal with the Sand Village. In this case, Chiga felt that Yi Kang seemed to be a little useful. For example, the subsequent collection of emotional values. Of course, this was just a small matter, and the real purpose was that Chiga also planned to recruit some younger brothers. After all, the future ninja world would be a fight between gods, and Chiga couldn't kill Uchiha Madara now, so he could only develop some power for himself first. And Yi Kang was a good choice. However, Yi Kang would not be used by him now, and he still needed to wait for an opportunity. After engraving his own mark of the Flying Thunder God technique, Chiga healed the injury on Yi Kang's calf. Then, Chiga sat cross-legged again and entered the sage mode a minute later. He lifted Yi Kang's eyelids, and the two Magatama in his eyes began to rotate. If you still have the desire to live, then transfer the chakra to your calves. Kyan said softly, and then shouted, Senjutsu Sharingan transcribing seal. The condition for this seal to be unlocked is when Yi Kang is on the verge of death and in despair. After doing all this, Kyan gave Yi Kang another shot of sobering agent to prompt Yi Kang to wake up quickly. After a while, Yi Kang's eyeballs under his eyelids trembled slightly. Kyan knew that the other party had woken up and was just pretending to be unconscious. He laughed and said, don't pretend. Your operation was successful, and now we are brothers. Negative emotions from Yi Kang. Emotion value plus 20. Yi Kang saw that he was found out by pretending to be unconscious, and he opened his eyes and looked at Kyan expressionlessly. What did you do to my body? Yi Kang felt his body, and his chakra was still unable to be mobilized, and he was weak all over, as if he had been anesthetized. Guess. Kyan said with a smile. Looking at Kyan's smile, Yi Kang really wanted to steam kill Kyan, but unfortunately he was currently the fish meat. Negative emotions from Yi Kang. Emotion value plus 50. You can't get any useful information from me. Besides, your 2 Magatama Sharingan is not good enough. Yi Kang knew that his tongue was no match for Kyan, so he didn't waste time talking to Kyan and said bluntly, don't worry, although I have Sharingan, I'm not good at torture. Kyan shook his head indifferently and then continued, but I would like to talk to you. Yi Kang asked doubtfully, then what do you want to talk about? Kyan's face slightly serious and asked seriously, why did you attack that stronghold at that time? Chapter 169 Yi Kang, Uchiha is born evil. Kyan he became suspicious after this question. Every time he goes out, he encounters some accidents. Even if he has a bad physique, it shouldn't be like this. Yi Kang asked in surprise, why are you asking this? Yi Kang led the troops to the front line of Konoha because he accepted the order of the Sand Village Command to destroy the Konoha stronghold. As for the attack on the Hyuga Hisashi stronghold, it was because of the words of a sensory ninja in the army. The sensory ninja also knew the number of ninjas in the Hyuga Hisashi stronghold, as well as the patrol time and route of the ninjas. At that time, Yi Kang did not doubt it, and just thought that the sensory ninja was careful. Anyway, they were all destroying the stronghold, whichever one was the same. Plus his own strength was good and there were many people, so he followed the advice of the sensory ninja. Now thinking about it carefully, Yi Kang seems to be a little suspicious. There is something wrong with the sensory ninja. Why is he so familiar with the Konoha stronghold? Thinking of this, Yi Kang suddenly laughed and gloated, ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to have so many enemies. Maybe the person who passed the information to me is your Konoha ninja. While Yi Kang was adding insult to injury, he also split the relationship between Konoha and this kid. In response, Kyan just rolled his eyes and didn't care. The only person in Konoha who wanted him dead was Shimura Danzō. Before going to the battlefield, Kyan had secretly found the root ninja who was planted with illusion by him. Knowing that the old guy had no intention of targeting him during this period. Therefore, Kyan thought about it and could only suspect Uchiha Madara. And only White Zetsu's Mayfly technique could grasp his movements so timely. If Yi Kang's group of sand ninjas were lured by White Zetsu, Kyan could have come to a conclusion. The old guy Uchiha Madara didn't fancy him, but wanted to kill him. Is he paving the way for a battle? Kyan has already got the answer he wanted and shifted the topic to another point. Speaking of which, are you interested in being my subordinate? Upon hearing this, Yi Kang looked at Kyan in surprise, and then said firmly, even if I, Yi Kang, die and am tortured by you, I will never betray the Sand Village. Really? What if the Sand Village betrays you first? Kyan said with a smile, I calculated with my fingers that you will have a life and death catastrophe in the future, and you will be betrayed by the Sand Village. It is also because I have a change of heart that I think you still have a glimmer of hope. As long as you leave the Sand Village now and work as my subordinate at ease, you will definitely be able to turn danger into safety. Don't use such a low-level means of alienation. Negative emotions from Yi Kang. Emotion value plus 20. Yi Kang's face darkened. This kid talked nonsense and deceived the public. It was obvious that he had no good intentions. One day, you will believe it. He shrugged indifferently and smiled mysteriously. He did not continue the topic. At this moment, Yi Kang is determined and 100% loyal to the Sand Village. Kian has no intention of letting Yi Kang return to his heart now. Before Yi Kang died, she heard from Kirigakure how the Sand Village sent her to the Land of Water for a truce. In that situation, it must be the greatest sorrow to have a dead heart. Kian is just planting a seed in Yi Kang's heart so that Yi Kang will not really want to die. After thinking about it, Kian asked again, by the way, I want to ask you about someone. Red Sand Scorpion, do you know him? Kian is a nostalgic person. As his former number one brother, Kian also needs to find out where this guy has gone. By the way, find him and educate him again. After all, if Red Sand Scorpion does not provide him with emotional points, he will not even be in the top 10. Red Sand Scorpion. Yi Kang saw Chiga mention it, recalled it carefully, and suddenly said to Chiga, now that you mention it, I also remembered that the Red Sand Scorpion once said that there was an Uchiha kid in Konoha who treated crows as treasures and asked us to pay more attention to it. He was talking about you, right? Although the Red Sand Scorpion is a genius puppeteer in the Sand Village, he has always been unsociable. Except for his subordinates, he has basically no interpersonal relationships. Therefore, colleagues in the Sand Village rarely communicate with the Red Sand Scorpion, and they didn't take his words at the time to heart. And Yi Kang is the same. In her opinion, the Red Sand Scorpion's words that they should pay attention to Uchiha Chiga were just an excuse for his own failure. Thinking about it now, Yi Kang is also full of regret. Chiga asked, yes, so he is still in the village now? Humph. How could Yi Kang reveal the whereabouts of the ninjas in his village? He snorted coldly and said, you don't need to care about the ninjas in our Sand Village. So he is missing like the third Kazakage, right? Chiga looked at Yi Kang with deep meaning, as if he wanted Yi Kang to understand the key. He wanted Yi Kang to remind the Sand Village when he returned to the Sand Village and carefully recall the key to the disappearance of the third Kazakage. Of course, this was not out of kindness, but to cause a dispute within the Sand Village first. After all, the Red Sand Scorpion is Chiyo's grandson. If the top leaders of the Sand Village really determined that the disappearance of the third Kazakage was related to the Red Sand Scorpion, it would be a question whether Chiyo could still serve as the commander. Other top leaders of the Sand Village would definitely investigate further. In this way, perhaps the pressure on the Konoha front could be relieved. You mean? Sure enough, after being reminded by Kian, Yi Kang was also shocked. He thought of a possibility and immediately became furious. Okay, it's indeed the work of your Konoha. We have long suspected that the Red Sand Scorpion and the third Kazakage suddenly disappeared from the village one after another. There is definitely a connection. Now it seems that it was all done by the third Hokage of your Konoha. Damn the third Hokage. Sooner or later one day we Sand Ninjas will flatten the Konoha village. Also, is it because you have a grudge with the Red Sand Scorpion that you use this method to let the Konoha village assassinate the Red Sand Scorpion first? You are so young, but you have such a strong hatred. Sure enough, the people of your Uchiha clan are all born evil. You'd better not let me go back to the Sand Village, otherwise I will definitely report to the top leaders and must assassinate you. Looking at the cursing Yi Kang, Kian was also shocked. He suddenly felt that he had lowered his grade by trying so hard to make this woman his subordinate. After coming back to her senses, he couldn't help but sigh and said, hey, I feel it now. You are no different from Tsunade. Yi Kang sneered, really? I just feel disgusted to get such a high evaluation from you. He complained, same big breasts and no brains. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. He takes the blame. I'm stupid. Yi Kang laughed in anger. You didn't know how to refute me, because I was right. I even suspect that you were involved in the disappearance of the third Kazakage. Then tell me how I was involved. Kyan, he asked curiously. First of all, you know the flying thunder god technique? Yi Kang sneered, and the thoughts in his mind suddenly became clear. As long as you have the cooperation of spies, you can use the flying thunder god technique to come to the sand village. After finding the third Kazakage, take advantage of the third Kazakage's inattention, and then use the flying thunder god technique to take the third Kazakage out of the sand village. And somewhere, your third Hokage must have been prepared for a long time and caught the third Kazakage off guard. More likely, your third Hokage led a group of ninjas to besiege the third Kazakage. Damn, the third Kazakage was killed by you, and the third Hokage. It was well reasoned. Kyan didn't know how to refute for a while, just staring at Yi Kang in a daze. If you can go back to the sand village, tell your sand village leaders like this, and see if they believe it or not. After a long time, Kyan sighed helplessly and left the laboratory. With Yi Kang's IQ, it was difficult for Kyan to talk to her. After leaving Yi Kang, Chiga came to his tent and called Sarutobi Asuma and the other two over. Seeing Sarutobi Asuma and the other two all gathered, Chiga said bluntly, "Next, I have to go on a secret mission. The three of you stay in the command room for the time being and wait until I return from the mission." Secret mission? Asuma Sarutobi's eyes lit up when he heard it, and he immediately came to Chiga's side and asked curiously in a low voice, "What mission is it? Can't we really participate? Little brat, don't ask around." Chiga had just taken the blame and was in a bad mood. He drove away Sarutobi Asuma, who was approaching with disdain. "TSK. I'll ask someone who knows later." Sarutobi Asuma rolled his eyes. "With my status, he will know what mission you have carried out sooner or later." Chiga replied unhappily, "Okay, besides me, only Tsunade-sama knows at the moment. You go and ask." Sarutobi Asuma heard this and kept silent. At this time, Shizune asked, "So do we have any missions during your absence?" "No." Chiga shook her head and continued, "But I have asked Lady Tsunade to teach you three in her spare time." "Lady Tsunade teaches you in person?" "Chiga, are you serious?" Yuhi Kuno's face was immediately filled with joy when she heard this. Among the three, she was the only one who still had a filter for Tsunade, a figure among the three ninjas, and she admired Tsunade. "Of course, I spent a lot of time and effort to get this for you. You must learn from Lady Tsunade," Chiga said earnestly. As for Shizune and Asuma, Shizune had been with Tsunade since she was a child, and it was common for her to be taught by Tsunade. As for Asuma Sarutobi, it was miserable. He was the only one among the three who didn't want to follow Tsunade, because he knew that Tsunade really wanted to kill you. And she was a medical ninja who knew the structure of the body best and could pull you back as long as there was a breath. "As long as you can't kill me, you will beat me to death." This is definitely Tsunade. More importantly, Tsunade will not show mercy just because he is the son of the third Hokage and is more likely to hit him harder. "Can we change someone?" Asuma Sarutobi looked like he had lost all hope in life. Shizune whispered to Asuma Sarutobi, "Asuma, there are benefits to learning from Lady Tsunade. At least you don't have to write a letter of apology when you make a mistake." Asuma Sarutobi thought about it, and it was right. Compared to being beaten, racking your brains to write a letter of apology was more torture. He immediately said happily, "Hey, Shizune, now that you mentioned it, I suddenly feel that Lady Tsunade's teaching is also a good thing." Kunoha also nodded repeatedly. Yes, that's great. I didn't want to write that letter of apology a long time ago." That's hard to say. At my strong request, the three of you need to write a summary of about 5,000 words every time you finish studying or practicing, and every day. Lady Tsunade has agreed. "Are you happy or not?" Chiga said with a smile. The three of them almost spit blood on Chiga's face. Defense break from Sarutobi Asuma, emotion value plus 100. Defense break from Yuhi Kunoha, emotion value plus 100. Defense break from Shizune, emotion value plus 100. Okay, you guys go down first. I haven't had a good rest since I came back from the frontline base. After sending Sarutobi Asuma and the other two away, Kyan opened the attribute panel that did not appear in chapter N name, Uchiha Kyan mood value. 6713 3 body technique, mastery, 456 thousandths, plus shuriken throwing technique, master, 2865/5000, plus sword technique, master, 4655/5000, plus flying thunder god technique, proficient, 2354/5000, plus chakra amount. The 3rd of August 10.8 cards, Hakushi had taken the current timeline, plus wind attribute, legendary, 6542/10,000, plus fire attribute, legendary, 5435/10,000, plus thunder attribute, mastery, 256 thousandths, plus earth attribute, master, 12/5000, plus water attribute, mastery, 845 thousandths, plus illusion, master, 3456/10,000, plus bloodline limit, Sharingan, 2 Magatama, 4999/5000, sage body, advanced, 1230/10,000. These attributes are luxurious for Chiga at her current age. The legendary realm is comparable to the cage level. Chiga has reached the level of wind and fire, but there is still a gap between ninjutsu alone and the real cage level. Because he often uses the Sharingan, in order to avoid being discovered by others that he is too abnormal, Chiga has been stuck in the progress of the Sharingan. And now, there is no need to be stuck anymore, because after experiencing the cruelty of war, the Sharingan has been upgraded. This reason can still fool most people. And now, it is time to upgrade his Sharingan. After thinking about it, Chiga first invested an emotional point in the Sharingan. Sharingan, 3 Magatama, 0/10,000, plus, in an instant, a large amount of pupil power surged from Chiga's brain into his eye sockets, and the 3rd Magatama slowly emerged at the corresponding position of the pupil. Is this the 3 Magatama Sharingan? Chiga silently felt the abundant pupil power in his eyes, which was completely different from the 2 Magatama. After that, Chiga upgraded some attributes or skills that were about to be upgraded, and once again invested all his emotional points into the Sharingan. He was going to start speeding up his eye opening and reach the main Jiki Sharingan as soon as possible, which would be the sign of truly entering the cage level. Because the panel has not appeared for a long time, I have forgotten some of the data myself. If there are some errors, please help correct them. I will change them when I see them. Thank you. Chapter 171 Action begins. In the next 3 days, Chiga got familiar with his abilities and then received a notice from Tsunade asking him to go to the headquarters. When he arrived at the headquarters, Tsunade had been waiting for Chiga for a long time. There were 3 ninjas below her, one of whom was Hyuga Hisashi, who Chiga had named. Seeing that the last one was Chiga, Hyuga Hisashi was also surprised and then nodded to Chiga. Chiga also nodded in response. Okay, everyone is here. Tsunade saw that everyone was here and immediately said, please introduce yourselves to each other first. I'm Hyuga Hisashi, a Jonin, good at physical skills and perception. Please give me your guidance. I'm Akimichi Choza, a Jonin, good at physical skills. Please give me your guidance. I'm Miranaka Uchi, a Jonin, good at medical ninjutsu. Please give me your guidance. Hyuga Hisashi and the other 2 were the first to introduce themselves. Chiga heard this and said, I'm Uchiha Chiga, a Chunin, good at illusion. Please give me your guidance. Chunin? In addition to Hyuga Hisashi, Akimichi Choza and Miranaka Uchi looked at Chiga with surprise. After all, the 3 of them were all Jonins, and if they were pulled into a team, the mission they were going to perform would definitely be dangerous. At this time, a Chunin actually sneaked in, and they were immediately surprised. However, Tsunade's next words surprised the 2 even more. Since you all know each other, then I'll be frank. The 4 of you will form the 2nd spearhead team, and the captain is Uchiha Chiga. Letting a Chunin lead a Jonin, or lead 3 Jonins, this is a unique thing, unless this Chunin's brain can be like Narashikamaru. Although the other 2 people's faces changed a little, they did not refute it in person. After all, this was decided by the highest commander on the front line, and as ninjas, they only need to obey. But Tsunade also saw that the 2 seemed to be a little dissatisfied, so she looked at Chiga. Discussions are allowed in a team, but only the captain can give orders. As the captain of a team, if Kayan couldn't suppress the objections of the team members, she would even have to consider whether to let Kayan carry out this destruction plan. Seeing this, Kayan also understood. He turned around, opened his Sharingan, scanned the two people, and said in a deep voice, "This destruction plan can only be carried out with me as a core. Letting the three of you join is only to be responsible for protection when my chakra is exhausted. So do you have any objections to me being the captain?" Under the oppressive three Magatama Sharingan, the two felt their hair stand on end and had nothing to say. The Uchiha clan who awakened the three Magatama Sharingan must be a Jonin regardless of age and other means. This is recognized by the ninja world. Even Tsunade didn't expect that Kayan actually awakened the three Magatama Sharingan. "What has stimulated you in the past 3 days?" Tsunade asked in confusion. When she was testing Chiga at the headquarters, Chiga still had a 2 Magatama Sharingan, but she didn't expect that it would become a 3 Magatama Sharingan in 3 days. Is the Sharingan awakened so easily? After fighting with Lady Tsunade that day, I felt that I was completely suppressed by Lady Tsunade. That's when I realized that my strength was so unbearable. The anger at my own lack of strength and the desire to become stronger made me suddenly clear, and my eyes became much clearer, and then I accidentally became a 3 Magatama Sharingan. Chiga was talking nonsense, and he almost said that he was a Saiyan. Bang! Tsunade was very dissatisfied and punched Chiga on the head, shouting, "Don't say it, if you don't want to, can I force you?" Chiga. Because of the shock of the 3 Magatama Sharingan, coupled with the interaction between Chiga and Tsunade, Akimichi Choza and Muranaka Uchi understood that Uchiha Chiga and Lady Tsunade had a good relationship. Under such circumstances, if they still questioned the identity of Chiga as the captain, they would be fools. At this moment, Chiga saw that he had achieved his goal, and then said, "Okay, without further ado, we will set off immediately and arrive at the target base in 1 day. Yes." Seeing Chiga's decisive action, Hyuga Hisashi and the other two immediately responded, and then followed Chiga. 1 day later, late at night, on the border of Koano country, outside a base in Sunagakuya, Hyuga Hisashi opened his Byakugan, scanned the surroundings, and whispered to Chiga, "There are a total of 31 sand ninjas in the base. They are currently resting in the house, and have no abnormal behavior. Outside the base, there is another team of sand ninjas patrolling, which should be 35 sand ninjas." And Hyuga Hisashi had not finished speaking. Chiga took over and said, "There is also a warning barrier around this base." At this moment, Chiga had also opened his Sharingan. Chiga's Sharingan's observation ability is already comparable to that of the Byakugan, but it cannot see through, and cannot see the situation in the base clearly. But he could clearly see the energy fluctuations formed by the sentries and the barrier around the stronghold. Hearing this, Hyuga Hisashi couldn't help but look at Chiga. He also discovered something strange through careful observation, but Chiga was able to accurately tell what the strangeness was. He also thought to himself, is the observation ability of the 3 Magatama Sharingan so strong? Well, Captain Chiga, how are we going to destroy this stronghold? Akimichi Choza asked in a low voice. "Not us, but me," Chiga said, and he had already taken out the summoning scroll and summoned a crow. In order to avoid being discovered, he had to deal with this team of sentries first. At Chiga's signal, the crow also flew above the position of the sentry in the night. Wow. The crow did not make any sound, but in the middle of the night, the sound of flapping wings was quickly discovered by the sentry. The sentry was about to throw out the kunai in his hand, but after looking up and seeing that it was a crow, he breathed a sigh of relief and then smiled at his companions beside him. "It's just a crow. There's nothing we can do about it. The kingdom of rivers is not our kingdom of winds. This country is lush with mountains and forests, so it's normal to have a crow colony. And because of birds, we've had many false alarms." Yeah. The sand ninja wanted to say something else, but suddenly saw a figure falling from the sky. Kayan held the gale in his hand, and when he suddenly came to the middle of the 4 sand ninjas, he waved his wrist. Puff puff puff. The gale drew a blue arc in the night, accurately hitting the throats of the 4 sand ninjas. In the splattered blood and unwilling eyes, the 4 sand ninjas slowly fell down. After killing the team of sentries in one breath, Kyan waved his hand and asked his teammates to come closer. Chapter 172 Second Movement. The sentries have been cleared. After the three came over, Kyan whispered, "Next, your task is to guard the surroundings. If a sand ninja breaks through the range of my illusion, you will take action to eliminate him." Although Kyan's illusion has been strengthened a lot with the blessing of the fairy method and the 3 Magatama Sharingan, Kyan also considered the possibility that someone could solve the illusion, and letting the 3 people surround it is to prevent this from happening. Moreover, if there is really a fish that slips through the net, after reporting the intelligence back, the sand ninja will know how the ninja in this base died. In this way, it will be difficult to carry out the subsequent base destruction plan. This is also the limitation brought by the illusion. Yes. After the 3 responded, they sneaked in the other 3 directions. In addition to the position where Kyan was, the 4 people just surrounded the base in 4 directions. Next, watch my performance. Crow secret technique, shadow crow technique. After Kyan spread out the scroll, nearly 2,000 crows flew out. Then these crows also split into countless clones. There was no need for Kyan to say much. These crows had been following Kyan for many years and understood what Kyan was thinking. They rushed to the base without stopping. After doing this, Kyan sat down and collected natural energy. The appearance of such a large number of crows would have been noticed by the sand ninjas, even if they were careless. The urgent alarm sounded throughout the night, and those sand ninjas who had fallen asleep woke up instantly and ran to the house ready to go. When they saw the sky full of crows, they also showed a look of astonishment on their faces. Almost all of their sight was crows. It's crows. There must be someone raising so many crows. Everyone be alert. Clear the crows first. The overwhelming crows circled above the base, a dark mass. After seeing the sand ninjas in the base come out, these crows immediately flew down. Faced with the overwhelming crows, the sand ninjas were also calm in the face of danger and began to clear the crows by various means. However, the crows surrounding them were all clones, while the real crows all stayed on the nearby eaves, trees, and even in some corners. They stared at the sand ninjas in the base in a dark way. What's going on? Are they all clones of crows? What is the enemy doing? Are they disrupting our sight? Be careful. I always feel that the other party is using crows as the first move. There must be something wrong. Just when the sand ninjas couldn't help but be curious about what the other party wanted to do, a vague voice came from the periphery of the base and fell into the ears of the sand ninjas. Senjutsu crow secret technique second movement devil hell. Ga 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 ga. At the same time, the crows also began to chirp together. In the astonished eyes of the sand ninjas, all the crows' eyes turned scarlet, and the 3 Magatama kept spinning. In an instant, the devil's shadow filled their ears, and that was not the end. The pairs of scarlet 3 Magatama Sharingan gathered in front of them, and the whole space was immersed in scarlet. Then, they felt their feet begin to shake. A pair of rotten and smelly arms suddenly stretched out, grabbed their trouser legs, and slowly climbed up. A sand ninja who entered the illusion first kept pulling at his neck with his arms, as if something was wrapped around his neck. His eyes suddenly became extremely terrified, as if all the blood had solidified. After a while, his face turned pale in an instant, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. Ugh, he tried to scream, but his throat seemed to be blocked by something, and he could only make a weak whimper. Slowly, his eyes began to become blurred, his body softened, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, his eyes were still staring, but his pupils had lost their vitality, and there was still a terrified expression on his face. With the death of this sand ninja, all the sand ninjas who entered the illusion began to fall to the ground one by one. The expressions on their faces were exactly the same as this sand ninja. Is it over? Hisashi Hyuga, who was on duty at the periphery, came to Chiga's side. He had observed through his Byakugan that all the sand ninja inside had lost their lives. At this time, the other 2 also returned here. They followed Chiga's arrangements, but they didn't expect that no enemy had escaped the range of the illusion. Well, you go in and clean up the battlefield. Chiga nodded when he heard it, and he sat down and recovered his chakra. The 3 of them looked at each other and then walked into the base. However, the scene in the base made the 3 of them open their mouths for a long time. This moment completely changed their definition of illusion. In the command room on the front line of Sand Village, Lord Chiyo, the Aishalin base has been destroyed, and no one survived. A ninja who was delivering information reported to Chiyo. Chiyo heard this. Her face did not show much anger. After all, in a war, the demise of a stronghold is a very normal thing. She asked, be more specific. How many people are there on the other side? Who led the team? The sand ninja said in embarrassment. Sorry, there is no such information. It was discovered by the team that delivered supplies to this stronghold that day. When they arrived, the stronghold was empty. What? The ninjas in a stronghold were eliminated silently, and the surrounding strongholds did not find it. At this moment, Chiyo's face showed a solemn look. Although the number of sand ninjas in the stone forest stronghold was not large, they were able to be eliminated silently by the other side. The ninjas dispatched by Konoha were either large in number, or led by one or more powerful ninjas. Chiyo was more inclined to the latter. After all, ninjas are responsible for infiltration, lurking and collecting intelligence. It is difficult to hide the movement of a large number of ninjas from the enemy. Chiyo has not received any news of Konoha's large troops appearing in the stone forest stronghold recently. After thinking for a while, she walked to the sand table and looked at her entire defense line in the river country. Stone forest stronghold. Chiyo looked at the location of the stone forest stronghold and then recalled the location of Konoha White Fang in her mind and then ruled out Konoha White Fang. HMPH. Is a new spearhead team formed? It seems that Tsunade has changed the strategic deployment. Chiyo sneered. She was actually annoyed that Konoha had always taken defensive measures. Now that the opponent has increased the intensity of the attack, Chiyo suddenly felt that the opportunity had come. Let the first and second sniper teams find this Konoha team. There must be a strong ninja in this team. Capture him alive and exchange him for Yikang. Chapter 173 Mysterious information appears. More than half a month later, under Chiga's illusion, 3 more strongholds of Sand Village were destroyed by Chiga. However, the team sent by Chiyo to intercept them never found the whereabouts of Chiga and others. A bunch of trash. 2 interception teams. Hundreds of ninjas didn't even see the shadow of the other side. Are you traveling in a group? This time, Chiyo was furious. Including the stone forest stronghold, they had lost 4 strongholds, with a total of nearly 200 people. It is normal for 200 ninjas to die in a war. However, if these 200 ninjas died for nothing, it would be unacceptable. Facing the furious Chiyo, the leading ninja of the first interception team also showed an extremely embarrassed look on his face. He explained, I'm sorry, Master Chiyo, the other side is far more secretive and powerful than we thought. The strongest base has 80 people, but not all of them died quietly, and the other side's appearance is extremely strange. The 2 bases are 4 or 5 days apart, but the other side was able to arrive within 3 days, and when we arrived, the other side had disappeared. There is not even any trace of the stealth path around. Chiyo heard this, frowned, and felt a little familiar in her heart, but because there were still too few clues, she didn't associate anything, just questioned. So, is this the reason why you got nothing? Because she had to stop Konoha White Fang at all times. She couldn't go to find Kyan's unit in person. Otherwise, she would have wanted to go in person. But she didn't expect that she sent out 2 blocking troops, but she didn't even see the shadow of the other side. At this time, the captain of the second sniper team whispered back, Lord Chiyo, it's not that we have gained nothing. We found some bird feathers in the destroyed stronghold. They are crow feathers. The other party should be the one who uses the crow summoning beast. That's it? Chiyo heard this, and almost gave the ninja a cup of poisoned wine, letting him commit suicide to apologize. The captain of the second sniper team gritted his teeth and continued, moreover, we also found that there are very few traces of fighting in each stronghold, or even none. We suspect that the other party first controlled all the ninjas in the stronghold through some kind of ninjutsu, and then killed them. It's more likely that the number of the other party is very small. Very small? Can only a small team come? Chiyo heard this and laughed in anger. He had already reached out to take out some blood-killing poison from his arms, but soon stopped abruptly, as if he wanted something. At this moment, a sand ninja rushed in with a scroll in his hand and said to Chiyo hurriedly, Master Chiyo, here is a piece of information that needs your review. Chiyo opened the intelligence scroll, just took a look, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He immediately asked, "Who sent this intelligence scroll? I want to see this person, and ask in person." "That, Master Chiyo, this scroll came along the river, and we just found it when we were out on patrol," the sand ninja said embarrassedly. "What?" Chiyo almost got angry when he heard this, regardless of the authenticity of the information. A mysterious intelligence scroll was brought to me just like that, and you kid are not afraid that I will open it and put a detonating talisman inside? Exclamation mark. When did the quality of their sand ninjas become so low? Seeing Chiyo getting angry, the sand ninja asked in confusion, "Master Chiyo, is there a problem? Problem? Are you a pig? You just gave me this scroll that appeared out of nowhere. Aren't you afraid that there might be something like a detonating talisman in the scroll?" Upon hearing this, the sand ninja suddenly realized and quickly defended himself. "Master Chiyo, don't worry. When we found this scroll, we had already checked it carefully before sending it to you." Hearing this, Chiyo suppressed the anger in his heart. He had already opened it. What's the point of saying this? If he hadn't been in contact with this ninja for many years and knew that this guy was really one of his own and there was nothing unusual, Chiyo would have had him taken down for interrogation. This ninja can't stay in the headquarters, otherwise he will be killed sooner or later. Chiyo thought so in his heart and then waved his hand to let the ninja go down. After the sand ninja left, Chiyo looked at the information in his hand and fell into deep thought. According to the intelligence, the ninja who destroyed the 4 strongholds of their sand village was actually a Konoha ninja named Uchiha, and there were only 4 people in the team. This unbelievable news shocked Chiyo, and at the same time, it was connected with what she had just heard from the second sniper captain. It seems that the possibility is really great. It seems that I have to do it myself. Chiyo thought about it, and the team led by Konoha White Fang could not destroy so many strongholds in such a short time. It can be seen that this team is more dangerous than Konoha White Fang. Afei, why don't you make up a good reason for that intelligence? If it weren't for my quick reaction, I would have been discovered by Chiyo-sama. The sand ninja who left the command center leaned against a big tree and complained in a low voice. At this time, a figure suddenly emerged from the tree and replied, "It's too troublesome to find excuses, and if such confidential information is sent to Chiyo, I think they will follow up. Then we have to find a lot of excuses to cover it up, which is a waste of time. It's better to give it to them without knowing the reason. It doesn't matter whether they believe it or not." White Zetsu smiled and disappeared into the ground, and the sand ninja disguised as White Zetsu returned to the headquarters. In a cave in a mountain somewhere in the country of rivers. As a red sand ninja who had already had a rebellious heart, Scorpion had prepared his own laboratory here early. All facilities are available. White Zetsu, who came back from the sand ninja headquarters, emerged from the ground. He looked at the red sand ninja standing next to the laboratory table and curiously moved over. When he saw the arm of Scorpion on the experimental table, he was surprised and said, "Oh, you actually started to transform your own body? Aren't you going to eat in the future? There are many delicious foods in this world." Scorpion's hand trembled and almost destroyed his arm. He immediately said with murderous intent on his face, "If you appear behind me like this again next time, I will kill you." Beizetsu immediately stepped back and said with a smile, "Oh, don't get excited. I just came here because of curiosity." Seeing this, Scorpion continued his transformation, operating the experimental table with one hand, and asked, "Are you here to urge me to complete the deal between us this time?" Chapter 174 Encounter. "Are you here to urge me to complete the deal between us again?" asked the red sand scorpion. "Yes, this is a good opportunity. Uchiha is currently active in the Sand Ninja area. If you can't beat him, you can also ask the ninjas of the Sand Village to help you." White Zetsu laughed and said, "After all, they haven't found out that you killed the 3rd Kazakage. If they see you in danger, they will definitely help you." Hearing this, the red sand scorpion looked at White Zetsu expressionlessly and then said disdainfully, "The person I, the red sand scorpion, want to kill, do I need the help of those idiots of the sand ninja? Ah, right. It seems that this White Zetsu's specialty is sarcasm. After hearing what the Red Sand Scorpion said, he immediately perfunctorily said. The Red Sand Scorpion thought for a while and asked, I asked you to collect all the information about Uchiha. Have you collected it? Didn't I tell you everything? White Zetsu asked back. Red Sand Scorpion said dissatisfiedly, that guy is growing at an amazing speed. I need the latest information. White Zetsu replied, the opponent doesn't seem to have changed much. The only big change is that his Sharingan has evolved to 3 Megatama. Just 3 Megatama Sharingan? Red Sand Scorpion's eyes flashed with a gleam when he heard this. Puppet Master is a ninja who is good at medium and long range combat, and the range of Sharingan's illusion is not so far. So Red Sand Scorpion is not very afraid of illusion. Although the 3 Megatama Sharingan has enhanced the ability of insight, copying and illusion in all aspects. But for him, it is not as threatening as imagined. As for the illusion used by Uchiha, puppets will not be affected by illusions. It seems that Red Sand Scorpion is moved, and White Zetsu continued. Speaking of which, the Sand Ninja is under a lot of pressure recently. Red Sand Scorpion just glanced at White Zetsu when he heard this. As a person whose underwear has been seen through by White Zetsu, he knows very well that White Zetsu should know that he still has some nostalgia for the Sand Village in his heart. At least he still misses Grandma Chiyo. After thinking for a while, Scorpion said, speaking of which, it's time to show off my most perfect work of art. Are we going now? White Zetsu smiled when he saw Scorpion agreed. Of course. Scorpion said, and installed the arm on the experimental table on his body. After moving it a few times, he sneered, Uchiha, I'm here to avenge my broken arm. Scorpion, are you sure you don't want to help your grandmother Chiyo relieve the pressure? If you don't want to die, shut up. White Zetsu didn't provoke Scorpion anymore, but just said, in that case, please follow me. It just so happens that Uchiha has already selected a new base target. He should take action tonight. When we arrive, he will be at his weakest. Every time he uses that illusion, it takes 2 days to recover his chakra. If we are fast enough, we can arrive at his weakest time. Really? That seems a bit like taking advantage of someone's misfortune. Hearing this, Scorpion looked at White Zetsu calmly. He became curious about the White Zetsu who had always wanted to kill Chiga. He wanted to know what kind of grudges and hatreds these two had. He thought that, when he met Uchiha, he might give him an answer. As for whether Uchiha would tell him, he naturally had his own confidence. The third Kazekage was already in his hands. How could Uchiha be his opponent? After defeating Uchiha, at most he would let him go in exchange for the secret. For the Red Sand Scorpion, if Uchiha could be killed, he would kill him, and if he couldn't, it didn't matter. This was also the reason why he didn't find Chiga immediately after transforming the third Kazekage into a human puppet. After all, he and Uchiha were not a life and death feud. He just suffered a small loss at the hands of Chiga, and this loss also accelerated his transformation of his body. The Ishiguro stronghold, a large stronghold in the Sand Village, has about 100 sand ninjas. But at this moment, these sand ninjas are all dead, and they also died in the second movement, with fear on their faces. No matter how many times I see it, I still can't believe it. Is this really the effect of an illusion? Akimichi Choza, who was collecting the bodies of the sand ninja, couldn't help but speak. The Sharingan is really too terrifying. Murakami Yuchi also exclaimed. This is not just the effect of the Sharingan. After looking at Chiga who was closing his eyes to restore his chakra, Hyuga Hayashi said, to be more precise, this is something that only Captain Chiga can do. The Hyuga clan, who also has a bloodline limit, and is also an I-type clan, also has a say in the Sharingan. Although the Hyuga clan has always been inferior to the Uchiha clan, but the Byakugan and the Sharingan are also known as the top bloodline limits in Konoha village. But if everyone who awakens the Sharingan can launch such a powerful illusion, how dare the Byakugan touch the Sharingan? In a few years, we should call him Master Chiga. After sighing for a while, the three of them honestly collected the bodies. At this moment, Hyuga Hisashi suddenly said, oh no, someone is coming. Wait, there is only one person? One person? Chiga, who was resting, also opened his eyes and asked in confusion, "Who is it?" "It's the Red Sand Scorpion." Hyuga Hisashi was shocked and said, "As far as we know, the Red Sand Scorpion is not on the list of this war. I thought he was staying in the Sand Village. Why did he suddenly appear here?" Chiga shrugged and said indifferently, "We will know when he arrives. Don't we need to retreat?" Hyuga Hisashi glanced at Chiga and said. Chiga said, "Let's take a look at the situation first." Soon, the Red Sand Scorpion came in front of Chiga and the other four. "Long time no see." Chiga greeted. Hearing this, the Red Sand Scorpion also laughed and replied, "Indeed, I haven't seen you for about 2 years. In the past 2 years, I have been thinking about how to find you to avenge my broken arm." Chiga rolled his eyes. "I don't know if you have remembered me in the past 2 years. Are you kidding? The system has recorded everything. You were only thinking about revenge on me for the first 3 months, but you have forgotten me since then. If there is an income bar for emotional value, Kion will definitely pull it out and slap it on the face of Scorpion. Do you still want to be the number 1 on the list? Question mark? If not, I will kill you." Kion carefully looked at Scorpion in front of him and asked, "Are you sure you can kill me today?" Chapter 175 White Zetsu appears. The Red Sand Scorpion narrowed his eyes at Chiga and said meaningfully, "You will know whether you are sure or not." After saying that, he had already taken out a scroll in his hand. "Protect Captain Chiga." Chiga did not react to the Red Sand Scorpion's action. The faces of the 3 Hyuga Hisashi suddenly became solemn, and then they came to Chiga in an instant. They used their actions to show that, if they wanted to kill Chiga, they would step over their bodies. 3 Jonin? The Red Sand Scorpion silently observed the 3 Hyuga Hisashi, frowned, but soon recovered and said, "Well, I think it's a bit unfair to attack you when you are weak. These 3 trash should be able to make up for your lack of chakra." "What nonsense." The 3 Hyuga Hisashi heard the words and their faces turned red. The Red Sand Scorpion has a certain reputation in the ninja world. The 3 of them thought that, if they were one-on-one, they would be beaten by the Red Sand Scorpion. But now there are 4 of them, and the opponent has only 1. Even if Chiga didn't do anything, they were 3 real Jonins, and of course they couldn't bear to hear the Red Sand Scorpion humiliate them like this. After all, they would never have thought that the Red Sand Scorpion would actually kill their own shadow and transform it into a human puppet. None of the 3 said anything about retreating. After all, why not take the merits that were delivered to the door? The only trouble was that they were afraid that they would delay too long and cause the Sand Ninja support to arrive. But even so, with Chiga's Flying Thunder God technique, they would definitely be able to escape. Captain Chiga has been doing all the hard work recently, and his body is almost moldy. It's just right for you to stretch your muscles. Akimichi Choza stretched his arms and took the lead. He jumped far into the air, held his right arm with his left hand, and suddenly shouted, "Multiplication technique." In an instant, his right arm enlarged dozens of times, and his boulder-like fist swung towards the top of the Red Sand Scorpion's head. However, facing the giant arm, the Red Sand Scorpion did not mean to dodge, but just stood there and watched calmly. At this moment, a figure suddenly emerged from the ground. He stood in front of the Red Sand Scorpion, stretched out one hand, and held up the fist of Akimichi Choza. "Sorry, what's next is the personal grudge between the 2 of them. Please don't get involved, okay?" Beisetsu said to Akimichi Choza with a smile. "What?" Akimichi Choza didn't expect that his attack would be blocked by an unknown enemy, and from the other party's understatement, it can be understood that it was very easy. Why is there someone else? Hisashi's face also changed drastically. Since he discovered the Red Sand Scorpion, his Byakugan has been observing the surroundings, fearing that there are still enemies. But this mysterious man who suddenly appeared from the ground, and his Byakugan didn't notice it at all. At this moment, he felt that this mysterious man in front of him would be the nemesis of their Hyuga clan. It must be told to the clan that there are such mysterious means in the ninja world that can avoid the observation of the Byakugan. "Captain Chiga, do we need to retreat first? To be on the safe side?" Hisashi asked Chiga. They thought they could still deal with one Red Sand Scorpion, but with an unknown enemy, whose lurking ability could not even be observed by the Byakugan, Hyuga Hisashi was at a loss. Chiga did not reply. The moment White Zetsu appeared, he had already opened his Sharingan. A pair of scalded eyes stared at the figure of White Zetsu, and his eyes also showed a very interested look. Unexpectedly, White Zetsu was actually mixed with Red Sand Scorpion. It seems that his guess has been confirmed. Uchiha Madara really wants him dead. It is not convenient for him to do it, so he encouraged other ninjas in the ninja world to do it. Chiga has also guessed that White Zetsu used his intelligence and lurking ability to help Red Sand Scorpion kill the third Kazekage. And the price that Red Sand Scorpion paid should be to find him and kill him. Chiga has never had a good way to deal with White Zetsu's surveillance. He can only set up a ceiling barrier to isolate it when he is doing some secret things. Now seeing such a wild White Zetsu appear in front of him, Chiga suddenly had a crooked idea. Mayfly technique, is it really impossible to sense it? I'm really curious about the principle of this ninjutsu. Stripping, blood drawing, dissection, one-stop service. Maybe we can analyze how White Zetsu's Mayfly technique was done from White Zetsu's body. Even if the analysis is good, we should be able to know the shortcomings of this ninjutsu. Chiga licked his lips and almost wanted to take out the scalpel on the spot. However, when he put his hand on his waist, there was only a gust of wind, and he immediately felt something was wrong. How come since he got the talent of scientific spirit, he has been developing in the direction of Uncle Snake? Sure enough, Uncle Snake has a reason for his perversion. Captain Chiga, the opponent's methods are a bit weird, and he looks like a powerful enemy. Do we really not need to retreat first? Facing Chiga, who didn't reply, Hyuga Hisashi asked again. Don't worry yet. Chiga came to his senses and shook his head, then formed a seal to summon a shadow clone, and this shadow clone quickly used the flying thunder god technique to disappear in front of everyone. The purpose of this shadow clone is to collect natural energy, which can allow Chiga to enter the sage mode at any time. He originally did not intend to fight with the Red Sand Scorpion to the end. It was time consuming and laborious, and there was no gain. As long as the Red Sand Scorpion could use the human puppet of the third Kazekage, it would be fine. With the testimony of the four of them, even without evidence, the top leaders of Konoha would believe that the third Kazekage was killed by the Red Sand Scorpion. And Konoha could also use this to reveal this news to the Wind Country. As long as this news spreads, the Sand Village will probably have some doubts, and the purpose of confusing the top leaders of the Sand Village can also be achieved. But now seeing White Zetsu is a little different. Such a good material, no matter what, must be killed and observed carefully. Such an unscientific Mayfly technique must be studied carefully. You try to delay that guy, I will deal with the Red Sand Scorpion. Chiga said to Hyuga Hisashi. From the fact that this White Zetsu could take on the multiplication technique of a Kimichi Choza, Chiga knew that this White Zetsu was a combat type White Zetsu. But his strength doesn't seem to be very high. Originally, Chiga wanted to deal with White Zetsu himself, but he thought about it. If these three people were to deal with Scorpion together, they might be killed instantly by the third Kazekage, the human puppet. But Hisashi Hinata wanted to say something. Chiga replied directly, order. Yes. Hisashi Hinata had no choice but to lead Muranuka Uchi to support a Kimichi Choza, leaving this to Chiga and Scorpion. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.